across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, Donald Trump has been on his feet in the last few minutes. He says he's talking to the right people in Iran and a deal may be done. We'll reflect on that throughout the programme between now and 10 o'clock. We're also speaking to the chief executive of the campaign against anti-Semitism because Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, in a speech today has talked about anti-Semitism on the rise after a firebomb attack. We all know that, but of course it's good to hear that the government apparently taking it seriously. Let's hope that is happening. We'll talk about the exhibition showing Jews eating babies is apparently not abusive or insulting, according to the police. Absolute nonsense. And Morgan McSweeney's phone has been stolen. Isn't that very sad and very inconvenient for him as well? We'll talk about Bob Monkhouse's notebooks rejected by the BBC show The Repair Shop over apparently racist jokes. What do you think about that? We'll also talk about why vets bills are so high. Have you got a pet or have you been to the vet recently? I have my cat Jack is insured actually, and even with that he had 3 teeth out and a couple of other minor things done, like his nails being clipped, and I think they charged me something like £500 or £600, £550. It was absolutely crazy. We'll talk about migration and why the French are so useless, and about why our post keeps going missing. So much to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. I want to make sure you get your voice on the air. The number is 0344 499 1000 for phone calls. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute please if you would. You can also send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. A packed show. Stay with us here on Talk. Thanks also to the texter Kate, who says, will you be unveiling your new show name? I've been enjoying your show the last few weeks. Well, Kate, thank you. I've got my meeting tomorrow with Creative. I've never met them before, but apparently we're having a meeting tomorrow. So maybe even tomorrow night I'll be able to tell you what this show is called. I'll check with the Creative people and see what they say and whether that's allowed or not. But we've just got to get all the different bits and pieces all done in all of that to make sure we're ready to go. But it will be very, very soon. Right then, Donald Trump has been on his feet in the last few minutes, and he says Iran has agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. These are the talks that he says are happening. Iran has said they're not happening. Let's have a look at what Donald Trump has been saying.
And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, you know, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
There's also some breaking news in the world of football, and that is that Mo Salah is to leave Liverpool at the end of the season, according to the club. That's just come through on the monitor in front of me. A lot to discuss, including the fallout from yesterday and what happened at that absolutely dreadful anti-Semitic terror attack. The authorities now looking into the terror group that has claimed responsibility for it. I spoke to a really, really interesting woman who's knackered, actually, after being up for such a long time. Caroline Levy, her name is, and she told me what happened around this time when I interviewed her last night. Let's see what she told me. The security expert Caroline Levy is an eyewitness to the Golders Green attack and joins me now.
At 1:45, I heard a boom, but we get a lot of car crashes on here. It's a main road and there's no speed bumps, so people go fast. And I heard a bang, and then I heard car alarms going off. I kind of was like halfway back to sleep when 10 minutes later another boom went off and more alarms, and I was thinking something's not right here. And I went out, and so if you look at that screen, I'm right at the top of that road. I went out and then someone said to me, it's a Hatzalah ambulance, and I'm like, okay, so I thought maybe one of the some electronic failure at an ambulance, and it had caused a blast and then another blast. And then quite a few people were gathering, and one of them works with Hatzalah, and he said, absolutely, this is anti-Semitic. I just saw another ambulance go off, and I was like, I've got to get out of here.
The eyewitness, Caroline Levy, there speaking to me yesterday. Well, I want to speak to Gideon Falter now, who is Chief Executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Gideon, good to have you on the programme. Thanks for joining me.
Good to be here.
An absolutely terrifying day for so many people in Golders Green, and indeed right throughout the country, not just that enclave in London, but right throughout the country. Terror on our streets, and apparently sponsored by the horrendous Iranian regime. Now we have the Home Secretary admitting anti-Semitism is on the rise. We all knew that, you know that, you do that day and daily, raising awareness of that. Is it at least some relief to you that the Home Secretary appears to get this, or do you believe that she does get this?
I think that it would be staggering if politicians weren't saying anti-Semitism is on the rise. In the last few months, obviously, we've seen the first fatal terrorist attack against Jews when there was that Yom Kippur attack by Jihad al-Shami, where 2 Jewish people lost their lives on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. But talking about this ambulance attack, it's just staggering, isn't it? We've got ambulances now, if they have a Star of David on the side, have to be protected day and night to stop people setting them alight. And we have had hints, haven't we, from the police and from the Home Secretary that they are looking into links to Iran. Well, if that's the case, if the British government thinks that Iranian spies are active on British soil and carrying out terrorist attacks, which it would seem to be what they think. We've had people charged in just the last few days on suspicion of carrying out spying on behalf of the Iranian regime, of spying on Jewish institutions and individuals. Plus, we've also got, let's not forget, Iran firing missiles at British bases everywhere from Cyprus through to Diego Garcia. How on earth is it that the British government still hasn't banned the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps from operating here in Britain on British soil? Because we cut an increasingly solitary figure in the West, where pretty much every one of our major allies, from the EU to the United States, has banned Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And yet here we are, they seem to be operating with impunity on our streets. There's no legal reason why I couldn't go and join the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps tomorrow if I wanted under British law. And now they appear to be involved in blowing up ambulances funded and provided to the whole of London by the Jewish community.
And the Muslim Brotherhood, not a prescribed organisation either. Security services investigating, as you say, whether Iran could be behind the arson attack on those 4 ambulances. It's interesting as well that there are reports that local volunteers saw suspicious-looking people hanging around outside the synagogue just beside where the ambulances had been parked in Highfield Road in Golders Green recently, and security was intensified as a result. But as we've seen on so many occasions, the Jewish community have had to step up security to such a degree. As you say, people guarding those ambulances. I mean, ambulances, for goodness sake, that are going to help dying people, people having heart attacks, who've saved countless lives, have taken the strain off the NHS to a huge degree, a charitable institution, very much like St John's Ambulance, helping Jewish and non-Jewish people. Yet that is where we are right now. We're also in a situation in this country where an exhibition showing Jews eating babies is apparently not abusive or insulting. I mean, that is the blood libel. That is one of the oldest anti-Semitic tropes in the world. But the force involved, the Kent police, say the artwork is critical of the Israeli state and its actions, but does not include content that is directly abusive or insulting towards Jewish people as a group. I mean, that is just nonsense.
It's absolute rubbish, isn't it? I mean, look, here we have an exhibition that looks like some blood libel fever dream. It's absolutely sickening. If you look at the images, it doesn't just talk about the state of Israel. It's got images, and underneath in the captions, it names individual members of the British Jewish community and says, this is a drawing of this guy, this is a drawing of that guy.
I'm afraid I didn't know that. It names individual members of the UK Jewish community, and it's apparently not anti-Semitic.
No.
What planet is Kent Police on?
I mean, the reports I've heard are of an exhibition which, had Kent Police actually gone there, and I'm not sure they have.
Yes.
I don't see how they could walk into that exhibition and say, yeah, there's absolutely no problem here whatsoever. We've heard reports that the council actually promoted this exhibition.
Well, they put money into it. The Labour Control Council put money into it. Blood-soaked hate scrolls about Jews featuring swastikas, the lobby, the Jewish lobby controlling the government. I mean, it is just as the tale as old as time. This is anti-Semitism, and yet the Kent Police say there's no case to answer here. This is outrageous.
I mean, just imagine what it's like to be a Jew in the UK at the moment. We've got record high anti-Semitism. Everybody, and I do mean everybody, knows someone who's fallen victim to some kind of anti-Semitic attack at the moment. Jews now about 10 times more likely than any other religious group per capita to suffer an anti-Semitic hate crime. You've got Jews being killed at synagogue. You've got ambulances that have been set up by the Jewish community for everybody being burned to the ground. You've now got exhibitions showing absolutely horrendous, blood-curdling images of Jews, naming individual Jews as the people who are supposed to be in those images, members of the British Jewish community. And you've got a police force saying nothing to see here. You've got, just in recent memory, West Midlands Police having had to admit that it basically fitted up a bunch of Jewish football fans, saying that Israeli football fans were sort of the most violent and dangerous in Europe, and then having to admit that they'd made the whole thing up, and the chief constable having to go into retirement.
Yes.
You know, just think to yourself, and I know that you do because you're an ally, but I ask viewers, think to yourself, what is it like being a Jew in Britain right now, where absolutely every bit of the state, every institution that is supposed to function and protect us from extremism, every single institution is failing right now. And all of the voices that you would expect to be raised in protest against this, I'm talking about all of our political leadership, instead keep coming along. And I was yesterday at the site of these this arson attack on the ambulances yesterday. We had politicians and police turning up and wringing their hands and saying, we're going to help sweep up the glass, and we're going to find the perpetrators, and we're going to replace the ambulances. And I just think, great, well done. You're going to help us clean up the mess. Thank you very much indeed. But what about dealing with this at its source? When are you going to come here with a single policy that anyone can credibly look at and think, yeah, that's actually going to make a difference?
Just on that note, Gideon, let's hear a little bit from what the Home Secretary said today in her speech. She says she's going to fight to rid society of anti-Semitism. We'll play this clip and then get your reaction, Gideon. This is the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood.
We know the Metropolitan Police are treating this as an anti-Semitic hate crime and have stepped up their support to Jewish communities across London. That the attack was directed at Hatzola, a community ambulance service, an institution devoted to saving lives, illustrates how warped those behind this attack are. I am pleased that the Health Secretary is providing replacement ambulances, but clearly justice is required. There have as yet been no arrests, but the perpetrators must be in no doubt. We will pursue them and make them face the consequences of this wicked crime. This incident comes at a time of soaring anti-Semitism in our country, and today my message to our Jewish community is clear. We stand with you, we will do everything in our power to protect you, and we will fight relentlessly to rid our society of anti-Semitism.
Does that give you any hope, Gideon?
I mean, all of the words are right, aren't they? But we keep hearing how there's no place for anti-Semitism in society. It's pretty clear there's a big place for anti-Semitism in society right now. And we hear politicians saying they were going to do everything in their power. One has to look. Since October 7th, which is over 2 years ago now, the October 7th attack, we keep hearing from politicians of successive governments saying how they're going to do everything in their power. I cannot think of a single measure that they have introduced that would actually move the needle. And let's talk about what some of those things are. When are they going to address the hate marches? When are they going to address the hate preachers in some of the mosques? Are they going to do something such as proscribing the Muslim Brotherhood? If these ambulances were burned down by Iranian-linked terrorist organizations set up by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps? Are they going to proscribe the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps? Are they going to start taking action against all of these state-funded institutions where anti-Semitism is rife? I'm talking about schools and universities, and even in some cases, places like the NHS and the BBC, where you've got a clear problem, a clear obsessive problem, and nothing is being done about it. So,
do you honestly think the government has done absolutely nothing since the 7th of October in 2.5 years to assist Jewish people and to stop anti-Semitism in this country?
Have they done absolutely nothing? No, you can't say they've done absolutely nothing. Have they done anything that will have any serious effect? No. I can't think of anything. Look, they've provided extra funding for security. That's terrific. But you can't just keep building taller and taller walls.
Yeah.
You know, we've already got security. You mentioned it before. We've got security at all of the Jewish schools, at all of the synagogues. We've got to constantly guard them. Now, apparently, we also have to have security day and night at a parking lot for ambulances if the ambulances belong to the Jewish community. Where does it end? It's not about providing more security funding. It's about going out and tackling these extremists. And I talk to people. When I was there in Golders Green yesterday, I talked to people from the Jewish community who are absolutely devastated. Our polling shows that the majority of British Jews now no longer see a long-term future in this country. And that polling was done before this attack.
And I was talking
but
to...
I also talked to a lot of people who weren't Jewish, and they're just decent, tolerant, normal British people who are absolutely sick and tired of seeing what is being done to our country.
Totally agree. And listen, I spoke to a number of callers last night, one particularly emotional call from what I thought was a pretty exhausted woman called Sharon. We've put up on our social media. I've retweeted it at Peter Cardwell as well. And she says she's leaving for Israel, as so many people seem to. Gideon, thank you. We'll talk more on this. Gideon Falter, Chief Executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. What do you think of what he said there? Did you agree that this government, the Keir Starmer, Shabana Mahmood, have done absolutely nothing in the last 2.5 years? Obviously, the Conservatives were in government for some of that time, Labour in government for some of that time as well, have done nothing that's been effective anyway, in Gideon's view, to actually deal with this problem. It's a very, very interesting problem, and it's a horrendous problem for so many people. Later on in the programme, we're going to talk about vets fees, and if you're an animal lover and indeed an animal owner, I never quite say my cat is owned by me, but Jack sort of is the boss, certainly. But we know that vets fees are incredibly expensive. We know that there are new laws and different regulations that are going to be implemented over the next 6 months to try to keep those fees down a little bit. Andrea has given me a ring from Manchester about this. Andrea, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
My cat Oliver definitely owns me.
they're the boss. I call Jack housemate number one.
Oh yeah, well Ollie is the boss man. So we've had him 13 years. We've got him as a rescue at 2.
Good for you. Brilliant. Adopt, don't shop.
Absolutely, his teeth were absolutely appalling. So he's got teeth like cracked walnuts, or did have teeth like cracked walnuts.
Right.
So again, my husband and I both work full time. We've got fairly good jobs, so we could afford the hit. He's arthritic now as well, so he's on medication for that. It just costs that. I'm not joking. The amount of money on Ollie, he's worth every penny, by the way.
I agree. I agree with you on the money, but it's a heck of a lot of money, Andrea, even if you do have good jobs, you know.
No, absolutely. Because, obviously, as you know, there's always something else you can spend the money on. But for us, I mean, it's just, if anything, I'd kind of sell a kidney for him. It's kind of, we love him that much.
But when you go, but I know, I feel the same way. But on these awful people in Dubai who left their animals there, I just thought, I'd rather be with. I just can't see any circumstances where I would leave him.
Absolutely.
But Andrea,
absolutely.
I mean, terrify me and tell me what your recent vet's bill was.
950, and that was for the arthritis medication and a kind of general checkup and the usual sort of stuff. But we've spent, that isn't the biggest bill, believe me. We was in an animal hospital for a few days. He got bit by another cat down the street,
right?
Really aggressive cat, and he got infected bites, unfortunately. And yeah, every time he gets bitten by another cat, he kind of doesn't respond too well and gets infections. And then
do you know what I worry about?
He's in the animal hospital.
I'll tell you what I worry about as well, Andrea. There are people, you and I can afford £500, not every day, but I can afford it once in a while for Jack to get his you can afford that £900. I have medical insurance or veterinary insurance. I pay 30 quid a month, something like that. We're in a very privileged position to be able to do that, Andrea. But there's so many people who can't, and I do worry about these people who absolutely love their animals just as we do.
I was just going to say that. It's kind of pricing people out that these people that absolutely adore their animals.
Yeah.
But then and again, I get it. Vets, they've got to make money, but come on, there should be something like an NHS for pets. And I know, do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Well, the government is bringing in more regulation. We're talking about it a bit later on, Andrea, and you're going to want to hear that a little bit later on in the programme. But you've illustrated the point brilliantly there, and I wish you and Ollie all the very, very best. May he have a long and happy life, and I hope his arthritis is at least manageable with the medication as well. Thank you to everybody who has been in touch. Stephen says, please ask Gideon why he seems more outraged that 4 ambulances are being burned than hundreds of school children blown to bits. Well, Stephen, you don't know that, and I didn't ask him that question about that dreadful attack, as you say. And those children in Iran who were killed by the Israeli bombs, or the American bombs, I think, attacks. That is something that it was dreadful, awful, shouldn't have happened, bad intelligence, clearly. It is a war, sadly, bad things happen, and we don't know what Gideon thinks about that. I'm sure he would absolutely condemn that. So just be careful, I would say, to assume. Had I seen your message, I would have happily asked Gideon about that. And Mark and Selby says, regarding the Straits of Hormuz, let's give Peter a chance. Well, we'll see. Trump is saying that it's all fine, and he says we've won this war. The war has been won. He says Iran gave the US a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money, and that the present was oil and gas related. So we'll see about that. Amanda says, what on earth would be the actual point of Iran having and using a nuclear weapon? Their retaliation would wipe out their lot as well. End of times. Well, I suppose the point of having a nuclear weapon is to not use it, but to have the threat. I don't really know why we have nuclear weapons. We can't even use them without America's permission anyway. And Tony has been in touch and says, it's always good to hear you, Peter. Have a great show. What a lovely sentiment. Whatever you think about all of these issues, whether it's expensive pets, whether it's the war in Iran apparently being won because Donald Trump says that, you let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. We'll go to the debate desk as we always do at this time every evening, 5 nights a week, although I'm actually not here on Friday. I'm taking a day off. Claire Muldoon will be with us, as will Sebastian Salek. Stay with us here on Talk.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Quite a big reaction, including from Angela, to the caller we had yesterday, Sharon, who says she is leaving this country for Israel. And Angela says, I caught your next to last caller yesterday. That was Sharon. It was depressing, describing how hate from terrorists, not yet prescribed as such by our government, is making this country unsafe for Jewish people. Your reaction was heartbreaking. I could see you were upset. I was upset, actually, but not as upset as Sharon, who's actually going through it. But thank you, Angela. Keep doing what you do, as light will overcome darkness eventually. Well, let's hope so. There are just horrendous levels of anti-Semitism in our society. Tad says, I've never seen anything like this, and unless the authorities act now to stop this hideous breakdown in the rule of law, worse is to follow. We no longer trust the police and the politicians, and that must be addressed. And John says, Netanyahu has failed the Jewish people. Well, that's an interesting one. Mark in Selby says, if that gallery in Kent tried to have an exhibition with just one painting of the Prophet Muhammad, it would get shut down before it was attacked. Kent police are anti-Semitic in Mark's opinion. Well, lots to discuss, including what Donald Trump's been saying in the last kind of 45 minutes or so, and I'm delighted to be joined on the debate desk again by the delectable duo of Claire Muldoon and Sebastian Selleck, political commentators both, and Sebastian Selleck is a Labour councillor. Lovely to see you both.
Good to see you.
Well,
Peter.
Let's just remind ourselves what Donald Trump has been saying. Just before we go to this clip, actually, I'll tell you that he said, we've won this war. This war has been won. Interesting, Iran saying they're not actually talking to him, but he says, and is now claiming that Iran says the US has been given, as he put it, a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money, and the present was oil and gas related. Let's have a look at what the president's been saying.
And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Claire, where's the truth in all of this?
Well, we don't know where all the truth is, and that's the problem. It's very, very difficult to read Donald Trump because we are so au fait with him shitting from the hip all the time and then almost doubling back, pivoting on what he says he's going to do. He also told the Iranians, let's not forget, on Saturday they had 48 hours to open the Straits of Hormuz. That didn't happen. He also has said that he has been in diplomatic chats with the leaders of the regime of Iran. They've denied all of that. He seems to have dropped Hegseth in it. Joe Kent resigned. Do we believe the Iranians? Do we believe Trump? Do we believe anyone that's happening? And let's not forget Witkoff. He's in Pakistan at the moment trying to get the peace deal done. I don't think we can listen to anything from the White House with any degree of credibility.
We've got as well the UK Navy going to the Straits of Hormuz.
Yes, HMS Dragon.
HMS Dragon finally arriving there, and also the fact that the demining may take place as well. Sebastian, what's your reading of this situation? It's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah, Claire's right. It's very, very opaque, isn't it? I mean, look, if things are moving towards peace talks, that's a positive thing. This is all predicated around a disagreement, and disagreements are best resolved peacefully than they are through any kind of military action. But really, usually when this happens, it's so a Middle Eastern country can save face and doesn't have to keep shooting missiles out. And this time, it feels like it's the opposite. It feels like it's Trump who wants out, and this is his way of trying to de-escalate.
Do you think HMS Dragon is really going to make much of a difference?
I don't know. Look, I think if you wanted to make a big difference in the Strait of Hormuz, you would have secured it before any of the shooting happened. It was the big opportunity that Trump missed before he started shooting rockets. Anybody who's anybody in international relations will tell you that's the obvious move to have made back then. So he really missed an opportunity, and it's having an effect on all of us. So it's hard to talk about what impact one ship might have now, when really you could have avoided all of this weeks ago.
I think HMS Dragon actually is more metaphorical than literal in terms of its support, to be honest with you. I think Trump needed a sign, and I think Starmer gave him that, and it is this. But, we were told that there's American soldiers, foot soldiers, ready to go into Iran at the moment.
And that's a whole different ballgame.
And that's a whole different ballgame as well. So it was interesting to hear Trump there just a few minutes ago. 1, 2, 3, they will not have any nuclear arms at all. Wonder what 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10 were.
Does he care about regime change? The Israelis definitely care about regime change.
They need a regime change.
Well, they do, but
they
do you think Trump does care about regime change?
I don't think he does. I really don't, and I don't know. I don't know if he knows what his next step was. I said to you both last week. I don't think he's got an exit strategy. I don't think he's fully thought this through. And the Iranian regime have responded globally with an economic war on us all. And global money is just teetering on the brink of disaster, basically. And I didn't know this either, did you guys? 90% of Japan's crude oil comes through the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah, I read that today.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's interesting with China as well.
Exactly.
Because it's only about 20% of their oil, but at the same time, the links between China and Iran are fascinating because of things like software systems, for example, so they don't have to rely on American ones. Where does this go now, Sebastian, do you think?
Well, look, hopefully we get a de-escalation. Hopefully we get a situation where the Americans and the Iranians get into a room, talk about it openly, do it through the usual channels, and we can see some kind of a calm down. Because you're right, the impact of this is global. Everybody's feeling it in their pockets already, whether you are filling up your car.
Apart from if you're shorting oil at the moment.
Well, yes, that's it. Or if you're an energy company, you're going to make a load of money off the increase
and Iran,
in the
as
value
a country,
of your,
made a lot of money.
assets.
And we'll talk a little bit about Rachel Reeves and what she said about that in just a minute. Just to say that Russia apparently launched almost 1,000 strike drones at Ukraine overnight, and today, according to Kyiv's Air Force. Lots in this, and we'll talk about Rachel Reeves and the effect on our economy later on the programme, and with Claire and Sebastian in just a minute. Davy Rees in West Kirby in The World says, as far as the government is concerned about anti-Semitism, they're scared stiff about the Muslims turning against them to their detriment, says Davy. Lots as well on the price of vets bills, which we've been talking about briefly. We're going to talk about it properly later on. One person says, my cat had a slight eye infection. I was charged £58 for a tube of human-grade ointment that my local chemist sells for £3.49, including the vet's consultation fee. The 5-minute visit cost £125. My fear is pets are suffering as people cannot afford to risk a vet's visit that can cost a week's salary. You're absolutely right. I actually know someone who's a GP, and his cat was given a tablet, a smaller, the word denomination is in my dose, thank you, a smaller dose than a human would get, but exactly the same thing that a cat was given, and he knows the generic version of this costs literally about 40p, and he was charged £80 for it. Penny in Essex says, dogs have owners, cats have staff. Dogs might be more loyal, but cats don't tell the police where you've hidden your drugs. Vets bills are horrendous, but they know you'll pay anything for your animals, so take advantage. We will talk more about that a little bit later on. Absolutely, so much more to discuss here on the programme and on the debate desk with Claire and Sebastian. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thanks everybody who's been in touch. We'll get back to your calls, texts, tweets and voice notes very, very soon. John Healy, who is the Defence Secretary, was talking about HMS Dragon. Let's just have a look at what he was saying.
I can confirm that HMS Dragon has arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean and tonight begins operational integration into Cyprus's defence alongside allies.
Lots happening in Parliament today. Rachel Reeves talking about energy bills. The Chancellor outlining exactly what she wants to happen. She certainly doesn't want the same scheme as Liz Truss put in place. Let's have a look at what the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, said.
I will not put that stability at risk. As we respond to this crisis, we must learn the mistakes of the past. The previous government pushed up borrowing, interest rates, inflation and mortgage costs with an unfunded, untargeted package of support under Liz Truss. That gave the support to the most wealthiest of households. Between 2022 and 2024, under the last government.
The most wealthiest. I'm not sure that's English, Rachel, but we get the idea here. Do you think this will work, Sebastian?
I hope so. And look, I think this targeting is really sensible, because we did get into a habit during COVID and after COVID of almost getting close to a universal basic income. We were being very untargeted in the support, whether it was Eat Out to help out or this kind of thing, getting help with your energy bills. And the reality is, we just can't afford it. I would love to see us live in a large welfare state where we can give everybody some form of support.
I wouldn't, if I'm pretty honest. But we're in a situation, clearly, where some people will get help, but there'll be a lot of people, just about managing people in the middle, who essentially, Rachel Reeves is saying, sorry, we don't care.
Well,
maybe not they don't care, but we can't afford it.
Sure. With any cut-off, and that cut-off is always going to be arbitrary, isn't it? You have to pick a level, and there will always be somebody just below it who will feel very aggrieved because they're not getting support. And it's just the reality of trying to put a system together.
Well, I think the reality of the past two budgets that we've had from Rachel Reeves have actually squeezed the middle banding so much, notwithstanding the amount of fiscal drag, student debt. There's lots and lots of people that are really, really struggling now, Sebastian, and I think to miss out that cohort, the ones that are being squeezed constantly, being wrung out constantly every single day, they're the ones that I would argue might actually need it more.
But where does the money come from, Claire?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, do you then...
Or is it just the energy companies? Do you just say,
this is what I was just about to say.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think you need to look at the model of the shareholders of the privately run capital energy companies, and it goes back again to the fact that this government and the successive 14 years of Conservative government have failed to get our domestic energy secured.
What do you think of what Claire and Sebastian are saying? 0344 499 1000. Sebastian, is there a fair way to do this?
I think hitting the energy companies is right, and there are plans to get rid of the what's it called, the windfall tax in a few years' time, and now is showing that maybe we need to reconsider that, because it's unfair that if the price of the asset that you're selling is going up, you should keep those profits. It was right to bring in the windfall tax before, and it would be right to use those profits for people who need it rather than shareholders of those companies.
OK, well, we'll see what happens with all of this, and whatever your opinion on it, do let me know. I'm very interested as well in what Gideon Falter was saying a little bit earlier on in the programme, and this whole issue of anti-Semitism in our society. We now have Shabana Mahmood. Perhaps we'll play that clip again, actually, about Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, who seems to have some sort of grip on this, or at least idea about this now. Keir Starmer was talking about it yesterday as well. Let's just hear what the Home Secretary has been saying in Parliament today about this dreadful anti-Semitic attack.
We know the Metropolitan Police are treating this as an anti-Semitic hate crime and have stepped up their support to Jewish communities across London. That the attack was directed at Hatzola, a community ambulance service, an institution devoted to saving lives, illustrates how warped those behind this attack are. I am pleased that the Health Secretary is providing replacement ambulances, but clearly justice is required. There have as yet been no arrests, but the perpetrators must be in no doubt. We will pursue them and make them face the consequences of this wicked crime. This incident comes at a time of soaring anti-Semitism in our country, and today my message to our Jewish community is clear. We stand with you, we will do everything in our power to protect you, and we will fight relentlessly to rid our society of anti-Semitism.
Gideon Falter, who I spoke to a little bit earlier on, he's the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, he didn't quite say the government has done nothing. He said the government has done various things, but he said that essentially nothing they've done has worked.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. There's been no effective threshold given in terms of governance for the anti-Semitic crimes that are taking place, that seem to be on the increase in this country, that would therefore keep the Jewish people safe. It's not working. You cannot have children afraid to go to school because of their faith, right? You cannot, and their race. You cannot have people in their homes frightened of retribution, of what will happen because they are Jewish. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is happening.
And yet that is happening on our doorstep. Now, if you want to criticise Netanyahu, the state of Israel, and things that are happening there, do. But don't call anyone anti-Semitic for doing that.
I don't think people criticising Benjamin Netanyahu necessarily are anti-Semitic. I don't think people criticise the actions.
I think that is, but it's been a real charge that's been brought to people, Peter.
But you're right, Claire. But there is certainly there's a fine line, shall we say, between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, and I think a lot of anti-Zionism is dressed up anti-Semitism.
And
what do you think, Sebastian?
I think one is a gateway to another. It is very legitimate to criticise any government you like, but it's very easy to go from criticising Netanyahu and the appalling stuff he's done in Gaza to becoming anti-Semitic. And that is a line you must not cross.
I just want to ask so many people what they believe Zionism actually is. I mean, Zionism is quite literally saying the state of Israel has a right to exist. That's basically the Jewish people have the right to a homeland. Not that it's a predominantly Jewish state, but it's not an entirely Jewish state. It's actually far more multicultural than even this country. So we're in a situation where, then you have. I know exactly what you mean, Claire. But then you have this absurd situation where you have an exhibition showing Jews eating babies is apparently not abusive or insulting. In terms of what the Kent police say.
Well, the thing that's drawn me to this is the freedom of expression of the artist Michael Collins and the protection from hate speech. Both are protected. What do? Do you shut down an artist who says he is not being anti-Semitic? He said He says that there is no link to the pictures that he has drawn.
He's talking about specific members of the Jewish community.
This has not been funded by any public funds either.
Well, we know that the council has put this on in Kent.
A council building, but the council didn't put. The council have allowed the building
to have
funding.
I wouldn't have it in any public building.
But listen, look at Charlie Hebdo in Paris, right? That cartoon that looked like Ur Willie, for heaven's sake, and people had to go into hiding. People were killed for that.
Well, I don't want him to go into hiding, but I do think it is absurd that you have named specific British Jews. You have troops, horrible anti-Semitic tropes of people eating babies and
I think that as a concept is disgusting in any event, whether or not it's described as an anti-Semitic trope.
It's clearly anti-Semitic.
But it's disgusting, whatever
it's clearly
it is.
Anti-Semitic.
Peter, what I'm saying is, I don't think you can. Not you per se, but in general. One, I would far rather people just not go because it is anti-Semitic, because it's something else, rather than shut it down and say no one can see it.
That is the ideal outcome. But here I think there's a smoking gun. I mean, if you look at the Public Order Act, you've got a piece of legislation there that can tackle issues like this around stirring up racial hatred. The artist is trying to argue that it's anti-Zionist, not anti-Semitic, but he's put up a sign saying anti-Semitic art exhibition this way.
That wasn't helpful.
Which surely is the piece of information here that proves that it's anti-Semitic and therefore shouldn't be able to happen. Look, I am very supportive of art that offends, shocks, disturbs. I want to be made to feel uncomfortable by art. It's what it's there for. But when it crosses this line...
Yes. You want to be made to feel uncomfortable by art?
I do.
Go see a nice Monet.
No, that's what art's for. I want to be challenged.
No.
But this
look at
too far for me.
Tracy Emin's bed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was full of things that offend me. But I still wouldn't want it to, for it not to be...
Tracy Emin's bed is less offensive than this. This is...
Look, are there degrees of offence now?
Yes, there are.
Oh,
yes.
come on, Peter.
There are degrees of offence. Like, you might say that me wearing a white shirt offends you. You're not going to, but you might. But that is less offensive than showing someone eating babies. There are degrees of offence. I'm not saying no one has the right not to be offended. My point is, why would anybody want to go to this? Why would any artist think that this was appropriate?
I don't know.
It's weird.
At least we're having a discussion about it.
Fair point. Listen, thank you. Dave, he says, I'm sure politicians and anyone who benefits won't lose out with the energy help. As you said, the people in the middle are the ones who are struggling and will be struggling once again. And Elaine says, it wasn't that long ago that Shabana Mahmood attended a protest demanding boycotts of Israeli products. I don't believe a word she says Elaine. Lots to discuss. It was very interesting, actually. We're going to talk about Kneecap a little bit later on, who I think are deeply offensive. They have a right to do their music. They don't have a right, and indeed they've been cleared of doing it. So it's a good job they're not supporting Hezbollah or Hamas obviously shouting up Hezbollah isn't in any way. And they're in Cuba. And it's interesting that they're in Cuba as well, staying in a 5-star hotel. And Richard Bergen is there as well, the Labour MP, saying, isn't it wonderful that we're bringing medical aid to Cuba? Some of the equipment he brought, of course, made in Israel, but maybe you should boycott that and make sure that people are less healthy. Lots to discuss on the debate desk in just a minute with Sebastian and with Claire. Stay with us.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lots of people getting in touch about vets bills. This is the Competition and Markets Authority. It used to be the Monopolies and Mergers Commission. Why was only one of them? That's what I always want to know. Anyway, it's introducing price lists, prescription fee caps and a price comparison website to boost competition and drive down prices for vets. This is going to be a major reform that will come into force by the end of the year. The $6.3 billion veterinary services market. Just quite a few messages on this. We will cover it later on in the programme properly with a vet. I will be asking her why it's so flippin' expensive. Helen says, my cat Teddy is asthmatic, amongst other things. An inhaler at the vet is just over £100. It's just a child's inhaler. Can you get the child's inhaler from somewhere else, Helen? That's my question. Maybe you can't get it without a prescription. I don't know. Gareth in Wales here. Hi, Gareth. I studied pharmacology at university and was told by several lecturers that most medicines used on animals are similar or the same as human medicine, obviously at different doses. One worrying factor I did learn was that all drugs which fail human testing and give too many side effects tend to be used in veterinary practices again as instead. Goodness me. Ernie says pet insurers are making an absolute fortune and they're paying vets an obscene amount. That's where the problem lies. There should be, says Ernie, a cap on the amount pet insurance should cost, and vets should only be paid a fair amount for their work. It cost me £600 to have my dog put to sleep because she was in so much pain and distress because of heart problems. That is theft, not pet care. Ernie, I'm really sorry to hear about your dog. That I'm sure it was a big loss for you and very difficult. I pay, I think it's about £30 a month. I used to pay a lot less actually, and then Jack, my cat, had one tooth out and it was £832, and then I thought, oh, this is great, the medical insurance or the vet's insurance will pay for it, and they came back to me and said, no, we don't cover dental. So that was that, £832. Crazy. Right then, let's talk about the modern-day Wagatha Christie, Morgan McSweeney. His phone has gone missing. It has been stolen, and of course it has lots of messages between him and Peter Mandelson. We're getting some of the information about that out on the debate desk. Claire Muldoon and Sebastian Salek, broadcasters and commentators. Both. Sebastian's also a Labour councillor. Reminds me a bit of Wagatha Christie, doesn't it? Also, the phone, what was it? It fell off the side of a boat in the North Sea or something, wasn't that? Dot. Well, the best one I remember, I was at university and one of my tutors told me that apparently there were a load of exam papers, like hundreds of exam papers that fell into the North Sea or were blown away into the North Sea. Apparently they all got 2 1s. So that was that. But Claire, what do you make of this story?
I mean, it is plausible. It really is truly plausible. It's even more plausible that the phone wasn't nicked and he just perhaps maybe lost it and just didn't want it found, didn't want those encrypted WhatsApps.
Is it in Louise Hay's drawer? That's what I want to know.
Well, you just don't know, do you? Well, certainly it's not in Sue Gray's.
No,
They've
well,
got rid of her in their drawers, haven't they?
They certainly did. Sebastian, just unfortunate?
Well, it's well-trodden ground, isn't it? Because it's the old excuse that Boris Johnson pulled out amid all the Partygate investigations, and then it turned out his phone number was the same one that he used on a press release back in the early noughties, and everyone had his number.
Although he did say, and I've done this myself, when you update the phone or you move phones and you don't keep the WhatsApps, and sometimes you're missing WhatsApps and things like that, but certainly you can get all this stuff, can't you? You can do the iClouds and all sorts of things. I'm very, very technical. I'm an arts graduate, get me out of here. But I mean, it's interesting as well that the Metropolitan Police said they're too busy to investigate it. Is it one phone theft they should investigate?
Well, is it two-tier phoning? I mean, because really, I mean, why should they get any special credence to get, the phone nicked? And I remember a day against Matthew Stadlin in this very studio.
That's right.
Do you remember?
That's right. And I really wanted a knife that day just to cut the atmosphere between the two of you. Do you remember that? Do you remember he said it was major crime? Yeah,
and I was like, it's so not major crime. And my face... Yeah, my face was just telling
They had a big Barney about it about Matthew Stadlin.
It was so funny.
I mean, Claire was actually texting me as it was happening. And they were in the break, and I thought there had been guests about a week previously that had a bit of a contretemps. And I made a joke and I said, they're both on their phones. It was Ben Habib and someone else, can't remember who it was. They had a bit of a contretemps and they were on their phones during the break. And I said, oh, you looking up spa retreats to have a break together or whatever. And I thought I'd use the same line between you and Matthew Stadlin. Silence. Absolute silence.
Dot.
It is always so awkward when you properly lay into someone on this programme and then it goes to break and then you just have to make small talk.
That's it. Well, you seem to be all right.
No, we're grand.
Have you ever had your phone stolen, Claire? Major crime?
No, I haven't, and I don't want it put out anywhere that I want it stolen. It's like it's my life. It's everyone's life. We're far too attached.
Well, this is the problem as well, Sebastian, because it's like having your wallet stolen. There's so much in there, and of course there's so many techniques they use in bars as well. Someone they still steal the phone. They say, oh, you dropped this, and then you log in to see what's happened, and then they steal it again because they see the number that you put in.
And there's so much you can do to secure your phone as well. I've got a lock on basically every app now, so that even if you steal it, you can't get in. But do you know what? A weird side effect of this is phone theft anxiety. I don't think I get my phone out in public anymore now without assuming it's going to get stolen and covering it up. And it's such a shame that we have to do that.
Well, I suppose it's good to do that, but at the same time, it is certainly something that you need to think about. Claire, do you get yours out in public?
You were just leading up to that, weren't you?
Sorry, there was a fish in a barrel.
I know, you just thought.
No, I am cautious. I do have not very good earbuds as well that I put in to make calls if I'm doing these sort of do that. But it is, they did on Oxford Street as well. They did a line that they said don't go beyond this line because people will steal them. Right then, I want to talk about Bob Monkhouse and these notebooks. Claire, just take us through this. What's happening here?
Okay, so Bob Monkhouse, in my view, was a great comedian. He was a stand-up. He was sharp. He was short, and he delivered with a punch and a smile. And not forgetting that Cocoa Pop spot he had in his chin.
That's right.
And so his notebooks were taken to the BBC's show called The Repair Shop. But one member of the production company that produces the show for the BBC took offence to one of the jokes that was in the pack. Now, it's reported that the joke is this: I'm not saying my wife's a rubbish cook, but she uses the smoke alarm as a timer. I laughed. I think that's really funny. I think it's a good joke.
Yes.
Okay, I don't think it's necessarily minimising women or men. It just happened to be a wife and a husband, right?
There may be other jokes in there as well, though, that there are things that were, this is one of the people who owns them, saying there are things that were acceptable in the 70s that one wouldn't dream of saying today.
Yeah, but you know, they were said, it's different times. Like we were saying about the energy companies, the windfall tax worked, now it doesn't, okay? So we need to keep changing, we need to keep evolving, but we certainly shouldn't be cancelling like a portion of a show because if someone's taken offence to Bob Monkhouse's jokes.
We don't know
ridiculous.
What was in there, and we don't know what was visible if you filmed it. I think it was a production decision more than a moral one. You have to remember that the repair shop goes out at 8 p.m. on a weeknight, and
they're not doing a stand-up show,
but they're not reading the jokes.
They're not reading the jokes.
But I think the calculation here, and I'm thinking as a former producer, is that if those jokes are going to be very easy to see, and I think a lot of them were lewd drawings as well, and you're filming it, that's going to come across.
Well, they wouldn't film those pages then. As a producer, you know what is right to go out and not go out.
Yeah, you could blur them, couldn't you?
Of course you could.
But the point is, and this goes into all sorts of different aspects of things. I mean, the repair shop generally deals with historical artefacts, and not all of them is going to be completely politically correct.
True.
I'm not saying we should be having gollywogs on the repair shop. I'm not saying that for a second. But Bob Monkhouse was a very, very funny man and a bit of a national treasure of his time. You're probably too young to remember him, are you?
I'm afraid I was, 11 when he died.
Right.
So I have absolutely no sentimental value for Bob Monkhouse. But the other thing is, it's the BBC. They're supposed to make something for everyone. And if you're going to risk offending people, you probably err on the side of caution.
For goodness sake, you wouldn't get out of bed, Sebastian, if you were going to run a risk of offending someone.
Well, again, it comes back to degrees of offence.
Well, exactly.
Look, if there are racist jokes in here, then I think that is probably worth not airing.
But they wouldn't have aired it. It's to get the repair shop is there to take something old and make it something beautiful, to make it live up.
This book still exists. Somebody still has it. You can still go and watch Bob Monkhouse on YouTube. He's not been cancelled. He's not been erased. He still is accessible. What do you mean yet? Nobody has been cancelled like that.
The BBC have cancelled him.
Well, no, you can still go and watch old clips of Little Britain, which were funny at the time and now feel a bit awkward watching them. It's all there on YouTube. You can go and look at it. So nobody's being erased.
I think we have a caller on this, actually, that we can put through. Michael, is it Michael in Hertfordshire who we're putting on? We just briefly, Michael, we literally have about 1 minute left before the end of before we go to the news. But what's your point on this to Sebastian and Claire?
Well, I wanted to talk about Bob Monkhouse jokes being banned by the BBC, and they allowed death to the IDF. I mean, how ludicrous is this world becoming?
They kept Pascal Robinson Foster on for another 40 minutes. That's a very, very good point. So some things are offensive and some things aren't. Some they will broadcast, some they won't. There's no real consistency here, Sebastian, perhaps.
Look, I don't think that should have been broadcast, and it's such a big organisation that someone's always going to mess up, and I think that's what's happened here. It wasn't a deliberate inconsistency, it was just a good observation.
Quick word from Claire.
If I had a husband and he was bad at cooking, he would use the smoke alarm as a timer.
Okay. Well, thank you both very, very much indeed. Claire Muldoon and Sebastian Salek, political commentators, both. Sebastian's also a Labour councillor. And thanks to Michael in Hertfordshire as well for that very, very good point. Lots of people, someone's pointed out that the phone that Morgan McSweeney owned was a government-issued phone. And Marge says text messages can be retrieved from phones. It is encrypted but requires Apple's authority, but that will require court authority. Well, thank you for that, Marge, and perhaps that's something that you know and or have experienced. Dawn says it seems that Liz Truss is living inside Rachel Reeves's head, says Dawn. Certainly the long tail of what Liz Truss did to this country remains, and I know there are very many viewers and listeners who completely disagree with me on her, and that's fine, because in my programmes we disagree without being disagreeable, and you can give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. We're going to talk about Iran next and what Trump has said. Where are we with this? What's the truth? So much to discuss. Stay with us.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Donald Trump says the war is won. We've won this war. This war has been won. He claimed Iran has given the US a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money, and that the present is oil and gas related. We'll speak to a journalist and columnist who knows these things back to front in just a second. He claims the negotiating team with Iran includes himself, J.D. Vance, the vice president as well, and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, his special envoy Steve Witkoff, and the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So much to discuss in all of that in just a second. And Britain, of course, sending civilian ships to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. There's been a lot moving on that within the last hour and a half, and we'll play you a clip of what Trump has been saying in just a second. We're also talking about why vets bills are so incredibly expensive. Now the government is cracking down. They're putting some regulation in, and prescriptions will be lower. We'll speak to a vet in a minute or two. We'll also talk about migration, what Shabana Mahmood has been saying, and take your calls, text, tweets and voice notes. So please do get in touch. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note, less than a minute please, get your voice on the air. 0344 499 1000, the same number for calls and indeed for WhatsApp text messages as well. So much to discuss here on Talk between now and 10 o'clock. Stay with us. Joanna in Salisbury's been in touch and says, hi Cardi P. Hi Joanna. It says, my 2 dogs have flea treatments. I get a prescription. It costs £20 and buy it online. I can only get it with the prescription, so the vet charges for the prescriptions just a piece of paper. It's still cheaper than getting the medication from the vet. You know what I do, Joanna, and it's a bit naughty, but I do it anyway. I go on Amazon and just buy the flea stuff for the cat, and indeed the worming stuff, and just go in when Jack has his, my cat has his checkups, and just say, can you hold him, because it's a 2-man job, can you hold him while I put these little drops on the back of his neck? And the vet always does that, but if you get them to do it, it costs you about 40 quid for basically the same thing. Amanda in London says, Ed Miliband's fanatical and obstinate refusal to acknowledge the seriousness of our oil situation at this time is both hugely worrying and irresponsible towards the country's well-being, says Amanda. Well, oil is something on the mind of Donald Trump at the moment. He has approved the deployment of more than 1,000 soldiers to the Middle East. They are coming from the 82nd Airborne Division, which is a sort of elite division of the US Army. He's also confirmed his negotiating team with Iran includes himself, J.D. Vance, the Vice President, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's involved in many, and has been certainly in the first Trump administration, many overseas and diplomatic missions, his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He told reporters assembled in the White House, we've won this war has been won. I think that's a fairly dubious statement, to be brutally honest. He claimed Iran gave the US a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money, and that the present was oil and gas related. Let's see what the president has been saying in the last kind of hour and a half at the White House. This is what he told reporters in the Oval Office.
And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, you know, I said yesterday, they said, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
The journalist and columnist David Patrikarakos is going to speak to us now. David, thank you for speaking to me this evening. What do you make of what Donald Trump has said here? What's the truth in all of this, do you think?
Well, I don't know, but I think we can fairly safely say, 1, America has not won the war. 2, I doubt very much that Iran has said it will never, ever, ever get a nuclear weapon. I mean, it certainly will not have renounced all of its nuclear ambitions. And I doubt Iran has given any present either of oil and gas. I think obviously Donald Trump is trying to calm the temperature somewhat, especially around the energy situation.
Pouring oil in troubled waters, as it were. David, I just wonder what, in terms of the kind of diplomatic lines that will be open to them. It's interesting because the Iranians have actually called it fake news that any negotiations are taking place. saying that, Donald Trump has given lots of detail, perhaps too much detail, on what he thinks is happening anyway. From the Iranians' perspective, how much pressure are they under? Are they under any pressure? Clearly the Straits of Hormuz is something that Donald Trump didn't particularly think about to any great degree before this war kicked off.
Well, look, I doubt Donald Trump had heard of the Strait of Hormuz before very long ago, but you would hope that people in military planning and his broader advisory had heard of it, certainly, and accounted for it. I was actually on the Strait of Hormuz myself in January, just before a lot of this all started, looking at Iran and saying that this could be a huge choke point in the event of any war. Look, clearly they will be back-channeled between the Iranians and the Americans in some form or another. They have to be, with intermediaries, of course, some sort of dialogue. Look, to answer your questions, the Iranians are under a lot of pressure. Let's not forget, look, this remains a war that has been prosecuted at the military tactical level very, very efficiently. They took out wave after wave of relatively surgical strikes. We've had some horrific things like the Iranian strike on the school, but they are not turning the country to rubble. There are not mass civilian casualties here. This has been prosecuted very well. But alongside that, you have seemingly no sense of a broader strategic plan. The messaging is terrible. If Trump hadn't said in the beginning, we want total regime change and create a rod for all of their own backs, the Iranians wouldn't have any way of saying that they are winning. But look, funnily enough, in this one sense, Trump is quite similar to the Iranians. I'm not saying the American president is in any way the moral equivalent of the Ayatollahs, but when this all ends, Trump will say, we won. And when this all ends, the Iranians will say, we've won. Trump will say, as he's saying now, they're not going to get a nuke and they're completely degraded. The Iranians will say, and he gave them this gift, you said you were going to come here and change the regime. We're still here. You tried to kill us. We're still here. We've won.
And that's a very good point. I wonder how it works or how it will work, and the fissures clearly are there between the US and the Israelis on this, because the Israelis say there are three key points in all of this are ballistic missiles gone, or at least the threat from ballistic missiles gone, nuclear gone, Iran not getting a nuclear weapon, and regime change. We've heard less about regime change in the last week or so, maybe even 2 weeks, from Donald Trump, and clearly there is some disagreement there between those close allies.
Sure, and again it comes down to what is realistic. Look, you hear people saying, well, the Iranians aren't rising up. This is foolish. Anyone who says this doesn't understand Iran. The Iranians are being hammered, okay? There are hundreds of sorties over Iran every day. You can't go into the streets and rise up now when you're being bombed. Secondly, the regime's terror apparatus is actually, 50% of it is going to continue to oppress their own people. The only way you can accurately assess the extent to which its internal structures have been weakened to the degree that people can rise is once it stops. And then you see the actual damage, okay? And then you see will people come out. But look,
So you don't think, sorry to interrupt you, sure. David, but you don't think there'll be any rising against the regime in Iran until the bombing stops? Those two things just will not happen, one after the other?
I don't see how you can do it. When I'm in Ukraine and, there's the air raid sirens, and, people aren't running into the streets, not en masse anyway.
Sure.
But, and there's something else, and I've said this on TV again and again and again. There is no, let's say the regime fell tomorrow. Who's going to take its place? There is no opposition, organized opposition. There is no leadership. There would only be a void, and is likely to be filled by someone from within the regime. Even if you killed Khamenei Jr., there would be someone else from the regime. The Islamic Revolution in 1979 that brought the regime to power was built around the architecture of the Ayatollah Khomeini. As soon as the Shah fell, in he stepped. In 2011, by the way, the Egyptian protesters in the Arab Spring, look, they were just random people on the street, hundreds of thousands of them mobilized by Facebook, and they won. Mubarak resigned. But because they were leaderless, because they had, weren't organized, there was a void. Into it stepped the Muslim Brotherhood. Now you've got Sisi in Egypt, who is an autocrat worse than Mubarak ever was.
Am I just sitting here as a sort of ludicrous individual, as someone who really thinks maybe there could be a regime change, maybe there could be freedom, democracy, maybe, or some form of governmental system that people in Iran can deal with, human rights, women not oppressed, people not who are rape victims not killed because they've been adulterous in the view of the regime. Is that just a pipe dream, that there could be peace, harmony, a good, decent society in Iran?
No, but not perhaps immediately. It's not a pipe dream. Look, the Iranians are a highly educated, highly ancient civilization, a sophisticated people, a very pro-Western people. I've studied Persian language at Tehran University as a foreign student many years ago. All of that's possible, but it will need to take time. Give it time. Let this end. Give it time, let the regime, because bear in mind, they're bombing all the banks as well. They can't pay their people. So there's pressure to be bear, but the more you keep hammering them, they're kept on this life support actually by the missiles falling. So let it stop. Let the effect of what you've done percolate out through society and see where things are in a few months.
Tell us about the Straits of Hormuz, because it's something that I knew existed. You, of course, know many people perhaps weren't totally familiar with it. How incredibly essential is it to the movement of oil, and how risk are things at the moment, especially with the mines that are there, because we know that Britain has sent civilian ships to try to reopen it and to deal with the mines that are there?
Look, it's become a cliche almost to say it, but it is arguably the preeminent energy choke point of the world. About 20% of the world's oil passes through it every year, and it's not just oil, it's liquefied natural gas, the LNG that comes out of places like Qatar. That's what goes into our heating. That's what hits you in your pocket when energy bills go up. Look, the Strait of Hormuz is vital for energy and all of the knock-on costs. You know, if oil is struggling to get out, if oil goes up, interest rates go up, your mortgage goes up, your heating bills go up. So we are talking about a strait that controls not just the energy prices, but the second and third knock-on effects that go all the way down to inflation and your mortgage rates. So it's vital. Now, Iran, interestingly enough, it never actually blockaded the strait, okay? The strait at its narrowest point is only 20-something miles wide, which sounds like a lot, but some of these tankers are like the size of, villages.
They're huge, yeah.
So, and there's something else that people don't realise or don't seem to. Let's say this ended tomorrow. Honestly, Peter, it wouldn't all get back to normal instantly. It would take a couple of weeks. There are tankers backed up. Everything's behind schedule. The Iranians never officially blockaded it. What they did was they said it's closed, and then they started striking at things. So you've got to demine it. You've got to get things back to normal. It's huge, and it's massive disruption. Look, Iran has very few points of leverage. This is one of them.
Yeah. David, really, really interesting to speak to you. Thank you, David Patrikarakos there. I appreciate you joining us on the programme. Lots to chew over there. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call to react to what he said. Janice is in Essex and wants to talk about this. Janice, you're very welcome to the programme. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, could I please say one thing?
You can say whatever you like.
All your guys behind the scenes have to put up with me phoning. So I am going to put out an applaud for them. All the guys that don't get the song Heroes, and they put your shows together.
Yeah.
And if it was a trick of all for them, I'd vote it.
Yeah, okay.
Right, can I please say, I think Trump is playing a blinder. He's made Russia think, you can't sell your oil, China can't get the oil. I think he can't stop now. He's got to finish the job.
He says it's over. He says he's done it. We've won the war. This war has been won. Do you think that's true?
No, I don't think he is. He flip-flops every blooming day. Yesterday it was this. I sit up till 3 in the morning. I listen to a channel that is talking about what's going on in America.
Yeah.
And they're all coming out. All of these experts over there are coming out and saying this. There's only 2 channels that speak the truth, and you're one.
Well, thank you very much, Janice. Much appreciated. That's Janice in Essex there. Appreciate that. And a little ping to the team behind the glass. Faith is producing today. Sam is the tech op, and Matt is the assistant producer, getting everybody up. And Luke Thomas is the person who is putting out all the clips and everything. We've got Connor outside as well, cutting different clips. We've got Ethan as well. He's writing all the straps. It does take a whole team to make a show. So there's a lot that we always have to remember. The people behind the glass. It's not just me. In fact, I just come in here and talk for 3 hours, really. Thank you to Margaret in Birmingham. Says, not a penny more for the French. We should get a refund. It's not their problem, it's ours. Starmer should stop the pull factor and get a grip of this crisis. Over 700 in the past week. Well, we will be talking about that more a bit later on in the programme, Margaret, so stay tuned for that. John in Bristol says the repair shop should have had a resident woke comedian to repair the old jokes, says John in Bristol. Would they still be funny, John? That's the question. Good heavens, how thin-skinned are the youth of today, says another texter. Being upset by jokes, for goodness sake, man up and get a life. Another person says, we had a dog who ate acorns. His face swelled up. I rang my daughter, who's a veterinary nurse. She told me to give him half an antihistamine tablet. It worked. Cheap medication. Well, we'll talk about medication that's not so cheap and what the government is doing about it in regard to pets. Lots of animal lovers, including me, definitely want the detail on all of this. I'll be asking Dr. Julia Muse. Is that her surname? Muse? Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. She's a vet and her surname is Muse. That is nominative determinism at its finest. Stay with us here on Talk and tell me your stories as well about your vets bills. 0344 499 1000.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So fewer than 40% of vets' practices have prices on their website. Some of the reforms that are going to be implemented over the next 6 months or so include practices providing a written estimate in advance for any treatment expected to cost £500 or more. That's fair enough, and that is a good thing, I think. Informing pet owners that they can have a written prescription, capping them at £21 for the first medicine and £12.50 for any additional medicines. The British Veterinary Association represents 19,000 vets, said the majority of the CMAs, the Competition and Markets Authority's measures focus on increasing transparency and information, which will help pet owners make a more informed choice and support competition, which is a really positive step. So what do you make of this? Apparently 56,000 people got in touch when they asked for their different views, and certainly some of them have been in touch today. Whatever it is you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000. I know Kate in Kingston, a very nice part of the world. Kate, your Odeon is excellent. I've viewed many a film there in Kingston in southwest London. She has some thoughts on insurance. You're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Oh, hi there. Hi, Cardi P.
Hello.
It's really good to be on.
Is this your first call?
Yes, it is, actually.
Brilliant. Well, you're very, very welcome. What would you like to say?
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight my pricey pet, my dog, Ted. So I've got pet insurance, and he had an abscess on his gum last summer that had to be treated and looked at in case it was something more sinister.
Yes.
So took him in for treatment. It was over £900.
Oh my goodness.
And my vet actually highlighted that pet insurance does not cover dental work in cats and dogs.
I was caught on that exact trap. 832 quid for Jack to have my cat to have a tooth out, and I thought I was covered, and I wasn't, and I changed insurers as a result to a much more expensive insurer actually.
Yeah, because essentially it's a maintenance. They know that all cats and dogs as they get older are going to require that
like us, Kate, our teeth start falling out.
Not quite yet, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is a scandal. It is incredibly expensive. I mean, I'm lucky in that, the vet I go to with Jack, the receptionist there, is absolutely lovely. She actually lives near me, and she's brilliant, and she talked me through everything, and she tried her very, very best with the original insurance to get the 832 quid, but I was just out of pocket. And Kate, I don't know about you, but it's a lot of money, and recently Jack had, I said this earlier in the programme, had 3 teeth out, and that was a couple of other things as well, like getting his nails clipped, and that was, even with insurance, that was something like £500. He also had a little growth in his mouth, which was fine. They just had to check it out. And it's just a lot of money, and to keep an animal is very expensive. We know, of course, that pet ownership rose really sharply during the COVID lockdowns as well, and as they get older they get more expensive. I do worry about people who can't afford it and what they do.
Yeah, I do. I follow a lot of charities as well, and a lot of pets are being abandoned, and you wonder if that is part of it as well, that people can't afford to care for them or are just overwhelmed. So, yeah, I mean, it's really upsetting.
Yeah. Kate, listen, thanks for the call from Kingston. Appreciate that. Let's go to Richard in Cornwall. Richard, very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hello, Peter.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a bit overwhelmed, really.
Don't be. Just take your time, Richard. It's all good.
Yeah, I live in a small village in Gweek, and I used to be a train driver in London, ex-Royal Navy. And a lot of us were talking about what the Cornish would think about what's going on in the big cities of Great Britain. You know? Yeah,
I think that's a very good point, and it's very, very different where you are to so many other places, isn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, I've got so many beautiful, lovely Muslim friends. I've got, I'm one of those types. But in Cornwall, it's so weird down here. With you being from Ireland, you might have a little bit of an idea. But imagine having prayer mass and mosques spilling out things near Newlyn fishermen. There'll be hell up down here.
Well, do you think Cornwall is changing or not changing?
No, so far it's still. But I love integration and everything. That's not the problem. But what I see, having lived, I used to drive trades for South West Trains, Waterloo, and to see how the cities have been changing. And yes, I'm voting Reform because we have the Lib Dem MP, Andrew George, who's brilliant. I danced Florida first time ever, first time. And Andrew George is Lib Dem. I believe he is, so I could be wrong.
I think you're right. It rings a bell with me anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's your MP, but you're sort of happy with him, but you want reform in government?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I think... And the people I speak to in and around southwest Cornwall, we are all on the same wavelength, and even though it doesn't really affect us like the hate marches and the anti...
Well, you're still a member of society, Richard, and it's your country that is changing, so you have every right to vote however you want, certainly, whether it's for the Lib Dems or Reform or anybody else. Richard, thanks for your call. Mary's in Cyprus, and HMS Dragon is what is on your mind, Mary. What would you like to say?
Well, HMS Dragon took a long time to get here, but it's sort of like everything else. Everything takes a long time here. But why I'm calling you is because we don't have pet insurance
here.
Oh, right.
So
you can't take it out in Cyprus?
No, there isn't such a thing.
Wow.
There isn't anything you can do. I mean, in England, we used to have pet. I think, is it pet plan?
Yeah, pet plan's one of them. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
So anyway, a couple of years ago, I've got 4 dogs. I think I've told you.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning it before. So what happens? How much are the vet's bills there? Are they expensive or are they reasonable?
Well, it's difficult to compare. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we went out and left the dogs in the house. When we came back, one dog had lost the use of its back legs.
Oh, goodness.
So we rushed it straight to our vet. And he wasn't a specialist in this, and he said, "Oh, well, you need to go to a vet in Larnaca." So we took the dog there, and they took him in. This was a Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
On the Monday, we left him there, and on the Monday they did an MRI, and then they did a spinal operation. But they didn't know whether he would ever walk again.
It must have been awful for you, Mary. It must have been very, very difficult.
It cost us €1,000, which in those days was about £850.
It would cost you a lot more now. I think you double or triple that in the UK.
Well, yes, but you couldn't not have done it. But
of course.
The outcome was we went and picked him up on the Tuesday, having been told, well, be careful, he probably won't ever walk again. And so anyway, we obviously treated him very carefully. But on the Wednesday morning, he woke up and jumped up on the settee.
Oh, marvellous!
And is now known as the miracle dog.
The miracle dog. Well, thank you for bringing us that story, Mary. It's wonderful to hear that your dog made such a miraculous recovery. We will be talking to a vet in just a minute, but before then, I just want to take one more call. This is Chris in Derbyshire now, who wants to talk about anti-Semitism. Chris, thanks for giving me a ring on 0344 499 1000. What would you like to say?
I think what a lot of people forget behind the news stories is the human cost to all this. I mean, I've been a victim of multiple hate crimes. 3 years ago...
I'm so sorry to hear that, Chris.
3 years ago, I was out and about in my powered wheelchair wearing my keeper, my skull cap, when an individual with his friends uttered a vulgar racial epithet. I won't repeat it on the airwaves.
Okay.
And then when I was at the lowered curb at the end, well, I realised there was no lowered curb at the end of the road, so I had to turn around and go back. And when I did, this man and his 2 friends confronted me, and I thought they were... I thought they were going to beat me up, and I was backing away in my wheelchair, and they surrounded me. And keep in mind, 3 able-bodied men against...
That's terrible, Chris. Absolutely awful. You must have been terrified.
Yes, I've been diagnosed with PTSD as a result.
I can hear it in your voice, Chris. I don't want to traumatise you by talking about it any further, unless you want to. But I just wonder, I mean, you clearly are someone who's dealt with this horrendous thing, and more than once as well. What would you say to those people in Golders Green who are dealing with the fallout of this today?
I would say I understand exactly how you feel. I understand how people feel when they talk about wanting to move to Israel. I'm having to move out of my house after being terrorised by these gang of thugs. It was verbal abuse. Any time that I wore a keeper after that, I would get morons yelling out of the car window telling me to go back home. Wherever home is, I was born here, but there you go. I'd have graffiti near my house, swastikas, Stars of David.
Chris, that's awful. Did the police help you in any way?
Well, I've got a list of reference numbers as long as my arm. Does that answer your question? A list of crime numbers as long as my arm. And the other thing as well is, even though there were bound to have been people who saw the incident on that street, because the ringleader of the gang was a local troublemaker, nobody wanted to intervene, nobody said anything, and to this day he's still up to what he's up to. The police know it as well, He's one of these that can afford new cars, but doesn't work. So figure that one out.
Chris, what are you going to do now? I'm so sorry to hear you've been through this. This is horrendous.
I'm hoping that the council will move me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting and seeing. I've sent in a whole bunch of letters from my GP, counsellors, psychologists, rabbis, you name it. I've sent in every letter I can to prove my case.
Yeah.
And they're just talking amongst themselves, wondering where the best place to put me would be. But I cannot wait to get out of this neighbourhood, because...
How long has this gone on, Chris?
This has been going on for, I think, about... Well, the worst incident was in 2023, but I reckon this goes all the way back to 2021. It started with the graffiti, and then they've obviously felt braver than the verbal abuse
because
started.
They've seen that nothing's happened to them.
Yeah, and
Chris, you're in a mobility scooter. Do you mind me asking, are you disabled? How old are you, Chris?
I have cerebral palsy, and I'm 36, studied media, studied broadcasting, and really had a promising future ahead of me. But with regards to this incident, it really did do a number on my nerves.
I can hear it in your voice, Chris. I can hear it in your voice.
As I think I've said, I take pills every night. I've had nightmares where I've woke up screaming because I think that the attackers are surrounding me and it's happening again. And I don't know whether this is too strong, so feel free to interject if it is. I've even...
You've had some thoughts, Chris?
Worse than thoughts.
Okay, we'll just be careful what we talk about on the air, because we don't want to talk about that in too great depth so people don't get ideas, Chris. But I know what you're saying there, and I am so sorry to hear this is happening, and I really hope this is sorted out as soon as possible. Chris, we've got to move on now and talk about something else, but I wonder if you would just keep us updated with what's happening. I really want to know soon that you have been moved to somewhere where you can have a good life. And Chris, I want to tell you that it takes guts, okay? You're someone who is feeling very vulnerable at the moment. It takes a lot of guts to pick up the phone. It takes a lot of guts to talk on national TV and radio about this, about a really, really difficult thing. And I just want to tell you that I wish you well.
If my story can help anybody, my advice to those people in Golders Green, or to anybody who's been through anything like this, is please speak up. There's organisations like the CST.
Yeah. Have they helped you, the Community Security Trust? Have they helped you, Chris?
They really did help me deal with this very dark time. Reach out to your community leaders, your rabbis. You're not alone. You are not alone. And there are others who are going through exactly the same as you.
Chris, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me a ring today. I'm so sorry that is happening to you, and please keep us updated about what's happening, and I hope that there are brighter days ahead. It took a lot of guts to make that call, Chris, and I wish you very, very well for your health and for your well-being, your mental health as well. And please know that if you are having those thoughts, there are a lot of organisations you can ring as well. And I'm just going to say to people now on the air that going to talk.tv/helplines is something you can do. There are lots of organisations there that can help you if you're having the kind of thoughts that Chris was describing there. We just want to be really careful about that, of course, at this time of the evening as well. Last night, Sharon spoke to me about leaving and moving to Israel, and now Chris has talked about perhaps not moving to Israel but moving somewhere else because of the anti-Semitic hate that he has received and the dreadful things that Chris has been through. And I think we all need to wake up to this. I know we've talked about it a lot on the air, on my programme certainly, And it's good to know that the government has been talking about this today, but this is something that is a daily reality for so many Jewish people. This is an absolute reality for them in so many different ways, especially if they're isolated, especially if they are vulnerable, like Chris, who has cerebral palsy, 36-year-old man, someone who just wants to live his life and to contribute, and I want to thank him for ringing me this evening. Whatever you think about what Chris has said, whatever you think about all the issues we're talking about this evening, please do what Chris did. Pick up the phone and give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I don't know about you, I'm very affected by what Chris said there. Really thinking about it. And if you have been affected by it, please go to talk.tv/helplines because there are ways that you can talk to various organisations, or maybe you're in the same situation as Chris. I really hope you aren't, but if you are, I know there are just a lot of people hurting at the moment and worried about this, and that was, I mean, last night, less than 24 hours ago, Sharon's call. Caroline as well spoke briefly after that. I would have liked to talk to Caroline for a bit longer, but we were coming up to the news. And Chris, tonight, this is just awful. This is just awful where we are as a society. Anna in Surrey says, please tell Chris that he'd be very welcome in Surrey or Hampshire. Our Jewish cousins are very welcome here. That's Anna in Surrey there, and I know a lot of people are responding to that. And whatever your view on what Chris said, please do give me a shout. 0344 499 1000. One thing a lot of people have been talking about this evening is the price of vets' fees, and Dr. Julia Muse is a veterinary surgeon and joins me now. Julia, you're very welcome to the programme. How are you?
Thank you, I'm well.
Julia, I'm afraid I've just got to ask you before we get into the interview, your surname. How often does it come up when you're dealing with cats?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you're asking.
Your surname, Muse.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Yes.
It's very amusing.
Oh, very good. Yes.
So you're a vet. Why is it so expensive? Why is it when people go to the vets that they're? I mean, I've had loads of people talking about medication, for example, that is a lot less expensive if you just buy it over the counter, or you can get it for, the dosage is different. Obviously, you're paying for the expertise, and I have a friend who's a vet, and 6 years of veterinary school is a very difficult thing. But why are vets so expensive?
Oh, I think there's a couple of things to unpick in that question, isn't there? Let's start with why are medications expensive? And this is a huge frustration for someone like myself, who is an owner of an independent veterinary practice. And it's all to do with the removal of the ownership of veterinary practices from just veterinary surgeons, and as a result of that, investment into the veterinary profession of private equity firms who are answerable, obviously, to shareholders.
And they of course bought up an awful lot of veterinary practices and chains and things, specifically during the COVID lockdowns as well.
Yeah, no, well, it's been going on for about 15 years now. It's been a very gradual process, but I believe the current situation is about 60% of all veterinary practices are in the hands of the corporates. But more than that, they're consolidating. It's a really good business model, you can argue, if you also own not just the GP practices, but the referral centres and the wholesalers who are selling the medication. You can then buy from the wholesalers very inexpensively because you own it, but sell to independents like myself very expensively. So I literally literally personally, as an independent vet owner, cannot buy medications for the price that my clients can find the same medication online. So I do positively encourage my clients to request the written prescription from me and to source their medications as inexpensive as possible. And I've just been reducing the amount of stock I hold in practice, but I do have to hold anything that might be required in an emergency.
Yes.
Something that's needed straight away. I can't send a client off to go and find it on the internet and wait for it to be delivered to their door, even with next day delivery. So there is an element of what I need to hold in the pharmacy to provide this service that clients expect of me.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you asked me why are vets so expensive, and then you said, what about medications? But if I go back to the original question, so people are talking particularly today because the press are talking about how vets' bills have gone up by 63% over X number of years, this much above inflation. And I do think it's very interesting to think in your mind, where has that statistic come from? I think of a vet's price, the most comparable price you can talk about is what we call the first consultation fee. So 15, or if it's 10 minutes of the professional's time in the consulting room, and that has no way gone up by that level at all. So I can only imagine that this statistic comes from, for instance, the insurance industry. People are making claims for a specific condition, an illness, and that is a reflection. If that goes up by X amount, then I'm sure that's a real number. We just haven't really been told where the number comes from. But it is a reflection of how much our profession, our medical profession, has advanced in that period of time. So,
but I'm sure that's all completely correct, Julie, and I'm obviously not holding you entirely responsible for the entire veterinary profession. But I mean, someone like me, for example, my cat, my much beloved cat Jack, went in to get one tooth out. He was out during the day, and he was out, the same day, thankfully, and it cost £832. I mean, break that down for me. How would that actually be the case?
Well, breaking it down, I run a practice in Haywards Heath, which employs about 18 people. And we have calculated that to just break even, to make no profit whatsoever, it does cost the practice over £90,000 per month. So that is our overheads, that is our cost, including salaries, of which I think salaries represents about 60%. We're a very highly regulated industry. Even just throwing stuff away, we have to dispose of stuff and pay for it to be safely disposed of. So a single tooth, there was probably also a scale and polish. There may have been preoperative blood samples. Certainly, depending on which tooth it is in the mouth, it might be that it takes anything from 10 to 30 minutes to extract, because some teeth have 3 roots, some teeth only have 1. We've got a person exclusively focused on the anaesthetic. So we've got an anaesthetist 100% focused on the anaesthetic. We've got a second person taking the x-rays, doing the scale and polish, doing only a veterinary surgeon can do the actual extraction. And if it takes them 30 minutes, then we will charge, I hope, a reasonable fee for that level of skill, because if your hand slips during an extraction, your sharp implement can go straight through an eyeball, or you can break the jawbone. It is a highly skilled thing.
Yeah.
And, obviously, some teeth just fall out.
Yeah.
Hanging by a thread.
To be honest, Julia, we didn't even get the tooth at the end of it. He wanted to put it under his pillow for the tooth fairy, but we didn't even get that. Let me just read this to you from Lorna in Cheshire, who's texted in to say, my dog had 2 lumps on her last year. The vet suggested a blood test first, which was £280. The results came back inconclusive. Then the vet said, she needs surgery to take them out. So out they came, turned out to be skin cancer, £1,250. Was told it's all been taken away, so she will be okay. She's developed another lump, but I can't afford another operation, says Lorna. And there are a lot of people in this position, aren't there, who, even paying once every month for insurance, as I do, or those charges even with insurance. Jack had 3 further teeth out this year, and it cost me another £500. There are a lot of people who will make the heartbreaking decision to give up their animal rather than to pay these fees that are so high.
Well, I think before they go to that level of extreme, I think it's very important your viewers understand that they do have choice. And this is something that you do need to discuss with your veterinary surgeon. You need to ask yourself, and I think this is where the CMA report has been great, is that there will be greater transparency about who exactly owns the veterinary clinic that's on your doorstep. And if you're not happy with the vet on your doorstep, you might get in the car and just travel a little bit further, find another practice who's got their prices on the website already and haven't waited for the CMA report for that to happen. And shop around. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, have pet insurance. That's incredibly helpful. But be aware that all stages of your animal's life, you need to think of your veterinary surgeon as a guide, but you are the decision maker. And at every stage of any care that your pet needs, there should be discussions around the pros and cons of taking action, and also the price tag. So estimates. I mean, I was actually really surprised the CMA said we only have to give estimates for amounts over £500. I mean, I routinely discuss amounts far smaller than that.
Yeah, and rightly so. Julia, you're clearly a very ethical person who cares an awful lot about this and wants to do the right thing. There must be people, as there are in every profession, journalism, shop assistants, vets, whatever, who will have to will be forced or will be encouraged anyway to put the hard sell on people and to say, your animal, your dog, your cat, your tortoise, your whatever needs this, that and the other that they perhaps don't need.
Oh, I sincerely hope not, and I've never come across people like that. But I think there is a problem with private equity ownership, because you make an investment into a business, you expect a return on that investment. If you're a veterinary surgeon owning a veterinary practice, everything I earn has gone back into the business to give better pay to my staff, to give better equipment for the patients. Whereas in the corporate world, I think it must be very hard to be a veterinary surgeon working in that world where you have a responsibility to the pet owner, you have a responsibility for the welfare and health of the pet, but also you're expected to have a responsibility towards shareholders and a duty to create profit. And I think that must be a very difficult place, and certainly not a comfortable place that I would wish to work in.
What pets do you have yourself, Julia?
I regret I'm bereaved at the moment.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So sorry to hear that. Well, I hope there's someone lovely and fluffy who comes into your life soon to put a smile on your face. I'm a militant adopt don't shop person, so go to your local rescue place and find someone there. Julia, thank you. Julia Muse there, veterinary surgeon. Really appreciate her joining the programme. Dan and Bansett said, I have 2 cats, Jack and Socks, great name for a cat there. I took them to the vet for vaccination. It cost me £140 per jab. They're lovely to have around, but is this normal? The cats themselves only cost £100 each. Dan, next time you get a cat, go to a shelter and you can pay a donation and get a cat there rather than buying one. But certainly those jabs seem very expensive, and I know the vaccination that Jack gets, or the Jaccination as I call it, is usually about 70 or 80 quid, but it's crazy money. Paul says you verbalise exactly how we're all feeling regarding Iran, a country that could flourish if only the regime wasn't in power. Trump has the same wish, but the blunt instrument of war is failing. Where is the solution, says Paul? Where indeed. Lots more to discuss. Stay with us. We're going to talk about migration in just a second here on Talk.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to Nat in Israel, who's talking about Rachel Reeves earlier on, saying most wealthiest. Some of us spent years learning English only to hear your Chancellor say most wealthiest. Yeah, you would hope anyway that the Chancellor of the Exchequer would be able to, speak English and so on. Alex says, my dog is my whole life. I couldn't afford to have my dog without my father paying £60 a month that goes up every year and still has charges on top, but he is the love of my life. And he sent me a picture of his absolutely beautiful dog there, Alex, so thank you for that. Rachel says, just let your viewers know if they're in receipt of certain benefits, they may be eligible for free or low cost veterinary care. The RSPCA, PDSA and the Blue Cross websites have a search function to find a clinic near you. Also, the Dogs Trust and Cats Trust can offer advice for anyone who can't afford their vet's bills. Really, really good suggestion there from Rachel, and thank you. And Ernie says, did you know there are certain breeds of dogs, some very popular like British Bulldogs, that insurance companies won't cover and their owners are seriously ripped off? It doesn't matter if they put the cost on the surgery wall because they all charge the same anyway, says Ernie. Well, as Julia was saying there, they perhaps don't charge exactly the same, and also if you can get a vet who's on your side and can say, actually, maybe there's a faster way and a cheaper way to do this. Paul in Manchester says, hi Cardi P. Hi Paul. I'm not Jewish, but I have dozens of Jewish friends and have done for 30 years. They're terrified right now. Please send my love and support to Chris from Derbyshire and let him know that the love is there from all right-thinking people in this country. He is not alone, says Paul in Manchester. Well, thank you, Paul. That was a very moving call from Chris earlier on. I want to talk now about immigration. And Tom Jones, who is Deputy Online Editor at The Critic, is with us. Two stories. French Channel patrol deal delayed as Mahmoud seeks tougher terms. Home Secretary demanding a new payment by results system after the French interception rate under the existing agreement slipped to only 37%. Tom, this does make sense because we were giving them so much money, 475 million a year, and getting very little back. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be surprised we're not paying them for results already. So yeah. French interceptions peaked at just over 50%. That was just about after they signed the first deal with Rishi Sunak, which was £478 million a year, as you said. And since then, the figure has dropped to, as you said, just 37%. It has just been the worst performing week for French authorities this year. The first quarter of this year already represents a decline from last year's figures. So things are looking even lower than that 37%. And to Labour's credit, they are looking at really toughening up, creating some economic incentives here for the French to deal with these migrant crossings, as well as trying to bring forward a package of reforms to the asylum system that make Britain a less attractive place for migrants to come.
Tell us about these talks as well, another round of talks, a proposed 3-year deal as well. At present, Britain apparently pays nearly 2/3 of the 160 million annual cost of migrant patrols in northern France. If they're not taking them seriously, why on earth have we been doing that previously? It does seem bizarre.
Yes, it does. And there's already been quite a lot of dissatisfaction in Labour about that. So there was some leaked correspondence last year between Keir Starmer and President Emmanuel Macron that basically Keir Starmer, to his credit, seemed to develop a backbone out of nowhere and complained that there had been no effective deterrent in the Channel. So clearly they are getting tough on this. I think one of the issues they're looking at here is that basically without any effective deterrent in the channel, it's become almost impossible to manage illegal migration. And of course, we've seen recently the new UK head of the UK Border Force, Martin Hewitt, quit after just 18 months in the job. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fascinating with stopping the small boats in the first quarter of this year, the French getting worse. The second week of this month was one of their most dismal performances yet, halting just 68 migrants while 357 arrived. This is obviously in the wake of this migration security deal. And analysis by the Sun newspaper of government data showing how authorities patrolling the beaches of Calais have had a far worse start to 2026 than 2025. In the first 11 weeks of last year, 4,395 migrants arrived, while 3,227 were stopped. That's 1.36 to 1. But this year, the ratio was 1.85, with 3,457 arriving and just 1,865 stopped. Shabana Mahmood says she wants to get tough on all of this, but she's also been in control, as has Yvette Cooper, for some time, and it's getting worse, Tom.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we should state at this point that this is actually a Conservative legacy deal, and actually putting in the economic incentives basically to pay for results is a Labour policy. There's also a potential for it to be a lot more expensive than we think, because channel crossings are now extending to the Belgian coast as well. Belgium has a new right-wing government that is creating quite a hostile environment for migrants. Many of those are now looking on to move on to Britain, and there's now a system of essentially ferry boats where they're moving down from the beaches of Belgium down to France, where of course the channel crossing is a lot closer, and then crossing there. So we also might have to start paying the Belgian government as well to patrol their beaches.
Crazy, crazy stuff. Listen, thank you, Tom Jones there, Deputy Online Editor at The Critic. We've had a voice note from Sarah reacting to Chris's call. You may remember Chris just about 20-25 minutes ago, if you're listening or watching, spoke, just absolutely broke my heart what he was saying about the dreadful anti-Semitic abuse that he's been through, the nightmares that he has as a result, the fact that he's trying to get out of his home and live somewhere safer. This is what Sarah said.
I'm lost for words as to what's happening, and I'm ashamed, and I feel so sad and angry, and nothing's being done. Nothing is being done, and I think it's only going to get worse. And I feel terrible. I actually wrote to my local synagogue yesterday. I'm not Jewish, I'm a Christian, but I wrote to them, and I didn't really know what I wanted to say, but I just wanted to write to them and tell them that I stand with them. I feel helpless otherwise, and I just think it's shocking. And someone else said, people need to wake up.
Sarah, I agree with every single word that you've said, and good for you for writing to your local synagogue. They will be really, really appreciative of that. And I know there are loads of Jewish people who listen to this programme who'll be very, very appreciative of what you say. I'm not Jewish either, and we shouldn't have to. It's bizarre and stupid and shouldn't happen. And I feel embarrassed too that we even have to say that anti-Semitism is wrong, that this dreadful, pernicious racism is wrong. It's happening, it's growing. And Sarah, good for you. You're showing Christian charity there. You're bearing witness, which I know is something that is fundamental to Christianity, and you're practicing what you preach quite literally. So well done to you, and thank you so much for your voice note. I hear that in your voice. I hear the frustration and the concern, and I have it too. We're going to talk more about that as the show goes on. We're also going to talk in a second about the postal service and what should happen to that. 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss in the next hour here on Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. Lots to discuss between now and 10. Chris's call earlier on has got so many people getting in touch. We'll make sure we talk about the arson attack, the terror that returned to the streets of London in Golders Green as well. We know people in Manchester have dealt with it as well, with this dreadful anti-Semitism. The cost of vets has been something a lot of people want to talk about. We're also going to talk about the fact that the postal service isn't working as it should. A national institution in meltdown is how it has been described. Also some breaking news on Iran I'll bring you in just a second. So much to discuss. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 7222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute please, just like Sarah did. Hers was fantastic. 0344 499 1000. You can also give me a ring on that number or send me a WhatsApp text messages. So much to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. We'll also talk about the Gratitude Games. Really, really good charity project, which is about people in so many different services, veterans of various services, and people who are in the emergency services as well, getting together, playing sport together. The multi-sports event decided to celebrate the emergency responders to support their mental health. It's a brilliant project. I'm very, very happy to support it, and we'll be talking to some of the organisers of that very, very soon. So stay with us here on Talk. Well, Donald Trump has been talking about Iran, and just to tell you that the site of a nuclear power plant in Iran was hit by another projectile today, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency. The Iranians say there was no damage to the plant itself, but the IAEA has reiterated calls for maximum restraint in order to avoid nuclear safety risks. I think I'm probably on board with that. The Atomic Energy Organization of Iran has issued its own update, accusing the US and Israel of targeting peaceful nuclear facilities and violating international law, while the Iranian regime knows all about violating international law with the horrendous repression of its own people, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, things it doesn't agree with and clamps down on. So I'll take absolutely no lectures from them on international law. Thank you very much. Right then, we're going to talk about Royal Mail. And the billionaire owner, I mean, this is farcical, the billionaire owner says it deserves appreciation for delivering the post. Isn't that kind of your job? You had one job. We have Liam Byrne, who's a Labour MP and the committee chairman of the Business Committee, who's called the Royal Mail a national institution in meltdown. For once, I actually agree with Liam Byrne. This is really weird for me. He's the one who was in the Treasury who left that note saying there's no money left. There is no money, I think he said. And he was also so loathed by his civil servants that he was nicknamed Voldemort. But anyway, he says it's a national institution in meltdown. He and his committee have talked about the fact that 126 million first-class letters arrived late over a one-year period, 219 million letters in total arriving late. The head of the owner of Royal Mail rebutted widespread claims that Royal Mail was routinely prioritising more lucrative parcel deliveries over letters, which are in decline. There are also worries about May's local elections that's coming up in, 5-6 weeks' time, and some of the postal votes will be out very, very soon. They could be jeopardised by the late delivery of postal votes and indeed election leaflets too. So there's quite a lot there, and Mr Byrne asked Alistair Cochrane, who's Royal Mail's interim chief executive, said, yes or no, are you guaranteeing to deliver postal votes to the country so that it can vote in elections on time, Mr Byrne asked. Alistair Cochrane, Royal Mail's interim chief executive, said, we've put all planning in place so we're ready to deliver democracy for this country. I'm not sure Royal Mail is delivering democracy, but anyway, there we are. John Bosco Nwagobo is with me now. He is the lead campaigner of We Own It. John Bosco, thank you for joining me this evening. What do you make of these claims from the owner and indeed interim chief executive of Royal Mail?
It's farcical, and obviously Ian Byrne is quite right that Royal Mail is a public service because people like to call it a company, but for 490 something years it was a public service, and now we see what a public service behaving like a commercial entity, like a company, looks like. What we are seeing is essentially parcels which are more profitable being prioritized, and of the committee today did not even believe the owner of Royal Mail when they said they weren't prioritizing parcels, because they know, all of those MPs know from their constituents on the doorstep that no, people who are waiting for letters from the NHS, from pensions, from even parcels, or rather cards from children during Mother's Day, know that those letters have been arriving late, whereas parcels tend to have this habit of arriving right on time.
Yeah, and it certainly is something that we know that the Royal Mail denies happens, but it is interesting that, I mean, I had a Christmas card that arrived in February. So many people have different experiences. Why do you think having Royal Mail in public ownership would actually make a difference here?
So Royal Mail functioned pretty much correctly or perfectly under public ownership for so many years. When it was privatized in 2013, the argument wasn't really that Royal Mail was not doing the job correctly at the time. The argument was that they needed to kind of prepare it for a new era, and that privatization was what was going to be suitable for delivering that era. Now, of course, many years afterwards, we can now see that privatization was not what was needed to deliver a robust Royal Mail service that is able to deliver to every household across the United Kingdom.
How realistic is that, John Bosco? Because if you put on, you know, a first-class stamp, which is really pricey these days, £1.80, and they're sort of guaranteeing, not quite, but sort of guaranteeing that we can get anywhere in the UK the next day. We're sending fewer letters. This is a new era. You mentioned the new era that they were preparing for. Is it realistic to say that no matter where you are in the UK, putting this single sticker, this stamp gets it anywhere else in the UK the next day? Is that a reasonable thing to expect to happen?
Yes, it is. And I'm going to tell you why. Royal Mail, though we now send fewer letters, it continues to deliver billions of letters every year from the NHS, from pensions, from other really important economic centres. And the reason why that is important to protect that is we've heard stories in Parliament a few weeks ago from MPs talking about local constituents who received letters on the day from the NHS for appointments that were supposed to be on that day.
I've received a letter from the NHS after the appointment was meant to happen.
Yeah. And this could have potential life and death implications for people. So it's really, really important that this service is taken really good care of. And let me explain how I think it could be done. We could bring Royal Mail into public ownership. It would cost about £3 billion. That's 0.1% of the national debt. It would be nothing. And what we could do is expand the service on both the letter and the parcels end, and use the profits on the parcels end to invest in subsidizing the letter end. Because the letters are still just as important as the parcels, even if they're not quite as profitable.
Yeah.
So we can use the profits from the parcels to subsidize the kind of losses from the letters.
Okay. John Bosco, thank you for joining us this evening. That's John Bosco Ngobo, their lead campaigner for We Own It. Very interesting to hear from him. Jones in Sunderland and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000 about Royal Mail. Joan, what do you think?
Well, hello to both of you. I'm pleased someone's brought this up, because you're lucky if you get any mail in 2 weeks. And when you do get it, you get numerous items. But what is wrong is, I think it's a form of fraud. We are paying for a service. You go, you buy stamps, a first-class stamps, just short of £2, like £1, what, 70, 80?
I think it's 1.80 now for a first-class stamp. It's going up again. It's gone up to a huge degree, Joan. The main time I would say I send letters or cards is Christmas time, and it's really expensive.
Yes, I know. But the thing is, you paying for a service that these people are not providing. And to me, it's a form of fraud, because nowhere else would you be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're paying £1.80 for a letter.
Is it? I think someone behind the glasses said, what is it, £1.70 for a first-class stamp? And for standard, and £3.15 for a large letter. I mean, that's expensive. The one that's a total rip-off is sending them internationally. So I send some to, friends in Dublin or things like that, and I think that's £3.40 for just a card, Joan.
Yes, I send them to Australia, and it's £3.45.
£3.45, yeah. It is pricey.
And what I do now is I buy a puffy envelope, and if I send about 4, because I do my daughter's Christmas cards and mine, and the cards themselves were about £16 and the postage was £9.
Gosh, goodness me. Well, listen, thanks for that, Joan. I really appreciate that, and really interesting to hear from it. Michael from Hertfordshire, we've got back on the air, because Michael, we only spoke very, very briefly earlier on, but I was keen to develop your point there about Bob Monkhouse and the BBC. You were saying earlier on that the BBC allows death to the IDF, but not Bob Monkhouse's jokes. So tell us a bit more about what you were saying there earlier.
Well, I was just saying that they pick and choose what they approve of, and sometimes they're just ridiculous. But I wanted to talk about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
This is why I phoned originally, and I was just saying that the health minister was saying he's going to suspend doctors if they're accused of anti-Semitism. But they've got to go a lot further, because they've talked about colleges, universities, but what they're not seeing is teachers going to schools wearing Palestinian badges.
Yeah.
Now, there must be no politics.
Well, you're absolutely right. And contractually, teachers are meant to be impartial. They are meant to be impartial. That is what their contracts say. They're not meant to bring their politics into school. And actually, teachers have got in trouble, for example, bringing children to, I think it was Labour's party political conference, talking about, for example, free school meals. I mean, that is a political issue, and they were attempting to bring children there to lobby politicians about it. Now, if the children want to do that in their, after school with their parents or whatever, that's fine. But pro-Palestinian badges, anything they're saying about that, they shouldn't. They should allow the children to think for themselves.
I've got no problem with them doing things in private. Everyone's got views, and they can say what they like and have what politics they want, but not in schools.
Yeah.
And primary or secondary, it just shouldn't be allowed. There's too many things allowed these days. If it was the other way around and it was a Muslim religion, I mean, take this art exhibition they're talking about. If it was an art exhibition insulting the Muslim religion, these people couldn't walk the streets safely.
Yeah. Okay.
Jewish people aren't threatening anybody, or never have done, even when they did the bombing in Israel. No Muslims got threatened by Jewish people.
You're Jewish yourself, Michael, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're Jewish yourself, aren't you, Michael?
I am.
Can I just put something to you, actually? This is a really interesting point that's come in from Hugh, who says, hearing the news of the ambulances that were firebombed from Golders Green yesterday, listening to Chris's most awful experiences this evening. I don't know if you heard that phone call a bit earlier on, Michael. Chris spoke very, very movingly this evening on Peter's show. Hugh says is really very upsetting and totally unacceptable. Is there anything we, the audience and Talk, can do to show or give greater support to Jewish people in the UK? What would you say?
I just think people are going to speak out.
Yeah.
For instance, I'll give you an example. When we hear Palestinian children getting hurt and killed, we're very upset. Unfortunately, there are sections in the Muslim religion that cheer when Israelis get killed.
Yeah,
it's just not right. We in Europe, the whole of Europe, where are there any Jewish terrorists? None.
Well, it's a very, very good point.
People,
yeah,
we just don't do this sort of thing, and they've got to come down, like I said before, with this Bob Monkhouse thing where. They've banned his jokes, which is completely stupid, but they allow death to the IDF.
Yeah. Well,
I know free speech is one thing, but we have to bring a line where it can cause problems to certain sections of English people. We're all English people.
Well, I would argue,
believe in God.
Well, I would argue that it's actually incitement what Pascal Robinson Foster did, but even in Somerset Police, the Crown Prosecution Service and the Metropolitan Police disagree with me. Why is that? I think we have to ask. Michael, thanks for expanding on your points there. I really appreciate that. What certainly a lot of Jewish people say to me, and maybe you're Jewish and maybe you disagree with this, and that's fine, just let me know, 0344 499 1000. What people say is, everybody has a voice these days. Everybody can pick up the phone and call this show. So many people have social media accounts. But even just when you're out and about or talking to your friends, if someone says something that is anti-Semitic or racist in any way, I mean, if someone said something or made a joke about black people, for example, you might say, oh, come on, you know, don't do that, or that's offensive, or I don't feel comfortable with you saying that, for example. When it comes to Jewish people, it should be exactly the same. If people are making those points, if they're repeating those tropes and those stereotypes, call them out on it and just say, look, I don't think you should be saying that. And I say, why are you saying that for? Well, because it's wrong, and because I want to stand up for our Jewish friends and neighbours. And as Michael says, we all have the same God. And as Michael says, we're all English, apart from me, obviously. I'm from Northern Ireland, but am I English? I don't think so. That's a whole other debate. Let's not get into that one. We had a big debate about that a few weeks ago on the programme. Listen, lots more calls coming your way. We're also going to talk about, speaking of Pascal Robinson Foster and musicians who are talentless anti-Semites, certainly in the case of Pascal Robinson Foster, one might argue that Kneecap have some similar views. They've been in Cuba, the lucky Cuban people, as if they haven't suffered enough. We're going to talk to the author Liz Walsh about that. She's written an excellent article for The Spectator about Kneecap being in Cuba with, who else? Jeremy Corbyn and Richard Bergen. Yes, really. Stay with us here on Talk.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good message from Nicholas, who says, funny how the Straits of Hormuz can be closed by the Iranians, but because it is only about 22 miles wide, can we employ them to close the English Channel? Very interesting point there. And thanks to everybody who has sent in various messages. Just looking at a few on Twitter there during the break. Rusty's mum says, regards to the call from Chris, it really touched my heartstrings. I really hope he gets the help he needs. As for the tormentors, your time is coming. Well, let's hope the police catch up with them. Another person says, our government is shameful in its failure to protect UK Jews. They, together with the police, should be taking a much harder line on the fight against anti-Semitism. I cannot believe what we are witnessing. It is just awful. And Troy Lee Brooks says, powerful, heartbreaking call from Chris. How can people treat him like that? I hope he gets the justice he deserves, says Troy. Well, thank you for that. I certainly hope so too. I want to talk about Kneecap now. If you're unaware of this band, count yourself lucky. They have rubbish music, but it's their politics I can't stand, because they're, I would argue, glorifying child abuse in having the name of kneecapping, which is a horrible practice, often perpetrated against both adults and children, but like 15-year-old boys who were shot through the knees in Northern Ireland as punishment for doing the wrong thing. I remember interviewing a mother of someone who had been kneecapped, and indeed a victim of kneecapping. When he came out of hospital, I interviewed him the next day. It is not a joke. It is a horrendous thing. Their music and, of course, their politics are not mine. Well, they've gone to Cuba now on a convoy. They've gone with Jeremy Corbyn and Richard Bergen there. Very interesting, Richard Bergen, the Labour MP, who brought some medical equipment, some of it developed by the Israelis. So clearly he's not boycotting and divesting himself of that. We know that Cuba is going through a really tough time. I've been there about 10 years ago. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. Its communist government is horrendous. There is a blockade there as well from the Americans. There's very little power there, and there are very few buildings that have power. Surprisingly, kneecaps, a hotel had power. But yes, the Cuban people had kneecap arriving, Jeremy Corbyn and indeed Richard Bergen. Liz Walsh is an author who's written an excellent piece for The Spectator about this. Liz, haven't the Cubans suffered enough?
They have indeed, Peter. If you read my piece, I think the way that they went over basically and, you know, looked upon these people who are suffering terribly as basically something to be pitied, something to be, you know, thrown a few dollars at and a few slogans and everything will be fine. The problem is, and I have travelled to Cuba about more than 20 years ago, and I spent a lot of time there, and I spoke to a lot of Cuban people, and I spoke to people in the Communist Party on and off the record. And what I saw was a people trying to survive with great solidarity, trying to survive with deep structural problems in the country, in the economy. The blockade is is a factor, but it's only one factor. But what really sickened me, I suppose, is the like of Kneecap, who basically haven't a clue about Cuba, let's face it. The like of Hassan Piker, and the rest of them.
I mean, Kneecap have made a number of factual errors about Cuba, and then they say, oh, we're just musicians, we don't know about politics. I mean, they want to have it both ways, don't they?
Exactly. But what sickened me really was the disrespect shown to the Cuban people by the majority of the people who went over there. There was over 600, Code Pink and the rest of them. You know, and they were taking photographs of them, you know, in the doorways, lying in the doorways. Kneecap's manager, this is not in the piece, but Kneecap's manager, Daniel Lambert, took a photograph of a couple of few Cuban kids playing dominoes by torchlight, and he put that on his socials. Now, would he have done that with a group of Irish kids or British kids?
Well, it's almost like poverty porn, isn't it? It's this is where this is. And then they did a concert as well, using a lot of power, and their own hotel that they were staying in, very, very different, 5-star hotel, very different from the conditions of the people they say they care about.
Absolutely, yes. The power went down. That concert, let's face it, it used a lot of electricity. Maybe in an ordinary world, you know, it wouldn't have made a difference. But when the grid is so fragile, like, it knocked it out. I don't know for how long, but it knocked. And they said that in a tweet. And they said, like, okay, the power is gone, but we still managed to get our message out. Solidarity to Palestine. How tone deaf is that?
Yeah, totally. And Liz, I've been following your work now for a while, and I'm delighted to have you on the programme. I just wonder, with these people like, I mean, we have Jeremy Corbyn and Richard Bergen in this country, but Kneecap, when it comes to, well, they are part of, they're Northern Irish, so they're part of the UK as well. But there does seem to be a really big problem, and I know you've written about it, about anti-Semitism in general in Ireland. Now, Kneecap obviously were Liam O'Hanna, who's one of their, I use the word loosely, singers, was cleared, and there's no suggestion that he is anti-Semitic or has done anything anti-Semitic, but But the question would be, I mean, there were Hezbollah flags, for example, on stage when they were performing. So I just wonder whether it's a generational thing in your view. We know that there are about a quarter of Irish people who either think the Holocaust didn't happen or was exaggerated. Is there sort of a zeitgeist as well, especially when you're turning? Sorry, it's a very complicated question, but when you're moving on from the Troubles as well to kind of make it a funny thing to be wearing balaclavas with kneecap in it and so on that are of the Irish flag. I just wonder where you think this is all coming from.
Yeah, well, Gen Z, as we could call it, there was some sort of a survey done. I think it was from the Holocaust Awareness Committee in Ireland, and they found that an awful lot of people under a certain age, weren't even aware of the Holocaust. But obviously, it wasn't confined to that that age demographic. But the problem is with the like of kneecap, and we're just using them because they're they were at the
they're in the news at the moment.
Yeah, but they're ill-informed, Peter, and they don't take the time to inform themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they're doing is putting out all of these slogans, buzzwords. And then, like as I say in the piece, for the TikTok generation, and they lap it up. And then this is where the misinformation, disinformation comes from. And that in itself feeds into this narrative. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen it, but in a previous piece for The Spectator, I got it was a report from the Jewish Council of Ireland. And there's only 2,300 Jews left in Ireland, very small proportion. And there was something like 140 incidents recorded, and they're not social media incidents now, we're talking about actual incidents, like within a 6 months time frame. If you compare that to the 300,000 Jews in the UK, that number is actually more or less on a par,
Yes.
Like, it's just horrific. And even the other day, we had another anti-Semitic incident in South Dublin, where Judenfree was painted on the road. Now, people came out, and wiped it off, which was great. But there is this narrative, and obviously it's gotten far worse in the past 2.5 years, since October the 7th. And it's as though the Jewish community are being blamed for the actions of the Israeli government. It's like a collective punishment.
Of course, yeah, we're seeing that.
Exactly. But if you look at Palestine, if you said, well, the Palestinians should be punished collectively for Hamas, it wouldn't go down to
it wouldn't, and it would be equally as unfair. Liz, really interesting to talk to you, Liz. We'll have you on again, certainly. I'm delighted to speak to you, and I'm a big fan of your work. That is the author, journalist, barrister, she's many strings to her bow, Liz Walsh, speaking to us there, so we'll no doubt talk to her more in the future. Pete says, kneecap has about as much talent as my dog's backside. They're disgusting racists and terror supporters. Now, kneecap, I'm sure, would deny being racist and would deny being terror supporters, but Pete is entitled to his opinion just as much as they are, and they have many, many opinions which they are very happy to tell us, as I'm happy to tell you my opinions on lots of different issues. Elisa has been in touch on anti-Semitism. Let's hear her voice note.
Good evening, Peter. It's great to see Gideon Falter speaking on behalf of us Jews, and he's 100% correct. The trouble is, though, Peter, that the government has only provided a sticking plaster with security funding. You can never get rid of a problem if you don't tackle its root. So what is the root? It's far left and Islamist extremism. It's a lust to join a fashionable bandwagon. It's choosing ignorance over education, and it's appeasement. And as for Shabana Mahmood, I felt that her speech had been written for her, and I genuinely didn't feel it was coming from her heart. And anyway, words are cheap. Action, committed action, is needed, and it's needed now.
Elisa, Very, very good voice note, and thank you for it. Really appreciate that. Whatever you think, whatever you want to say in the next half an hour, you let me know. 0344 499 1000. Now, you may have heard of the Gratitude Games. If you haven't, we're going to tell you about them. This is a major annual multi-sports event designed to celebrate emergency responders, people who are in the fire service, police service, ambulance, whoever they are, Coast Guard, to support their mental health, their families and the wider community. It's brilliant that two of the organisers who are involved, the founder, Mike Downard, is going to be with us, as is his glamorous sidekick, Debbie Heath-French, the founder of Forces Equine, will be with us in just a second. We'll hear all about that, and we'll take more calls right up until 10 o'clock. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you so much to everybody who has given me a call or sent me a WhatsApp message or a text. I'll have a look at Twitter as well, make sure as many people as possible get their opinions on the air between now and 10 o'clock. But I want to tell you about something that I'm pretty excited about, actually, because they're really, really good ideas. The Gratitude Games. If you are an emergency responder, if you're from the Fire and Rescue Services, Police, Air Ambulance, Paramedics, Blood Bikes, Border Force, Prison and Probation Service, Coast Guard Agency, Mountain Rescue and Surf Life-Saving Teams, didn't even know they existed, but of course if I thought about it, I suppose I would have. Well, all of them, and I know there are loads of forces families, I know there are loads of people who serve in uniform, loads of different people who are who serve in uniform and serve our country. This is a major sports event designed to celebrate emergency responders who have been through so much, of course. I mean, just reading some of the stories of 61% of fire service personnel, for example, facing mental health issues. One retired firefighter saying, "I wish my head could forget what my eyes have seen." 66% in the police, "I wake up with hot sweats and constant dreams of the dead," people, says a serving police officer. There are so many different people who have been through so much, and one really good way that we can support them, people are asking about practically helping people earlier, well, it's to support the Gratitude Games, and I'm delighted that Mike Downard, who's the founder of the Gratitude Games and a firefighter himself with 24 years standing, is with us. Hello, Mike.
Hi.
And Debbie is with me too, Debbie Heath-French, founder of Forces Equine. You've brought me in this rather beautiful rosette here as well, which I'm going to proudly wear here. Not that I'm entitled to it at all. But Mike, first of all, tell me why you set this up.
I've been in the fire service for 23, nearly 24 years, and I've witnessed quite a few people that have either attempted to take their own life or gone on to take their own life, and they're not just from the fire service, they're from all the emergency services. And it was just a dream about 7 years ago. I just woke up and thought, how do we raise the profile, raise funds, support mental health, and get the whole community together to celebrate what we do as an emergency service.
What actually happens during the Gratitude Games?
So it's a sporting event, so there's 8 sports in the first year, hosted mainly in Manchester, and it's to allow the people from the emergency services, retired or serving their immediate families, the opportunity to come and take part in the sport, celebrate who they are, what they do together, the public to celebrate what they do, and really show them off and put them on a pedestal, really.
Debbie, you know a thing or two. You know your way around a horse. Tell me about the equestrian aspect of this and what Forces Equine is.
So Mike approached us to hold the equestrian leg, which we're very honoured and privileged to do. It was never going to be a no. So we are hosting the Forces Equine leg Gratitude Games equestrian leg on the 5th, 6th and 7th of June at Pickering Grange Equestrian Centre, which is in Leicestershire. It's great to be in the middle of the country. It makes everyone's life easy.
Oh, could you just move your... is it me? Who is it? I think your hair might have been in your microphone there. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Debbie. Yeah, much better.
Thank you. So we've got all the disciplines, so dressage, show jumping, arena eventing challenge, and lots of other upbeat bits, just to bring like-minded people together with their horses from grassroots up to elite. And it's going to be a privilege to host that for the Gratitude Games. And the reason why I brought you that down is because last time we spoke, it's a frilly. Now you know what a frilly is, and
I do.
They love them.
Excellent. Well, they're very, very cool. Archery, clay shooting, golf, lawn bowls. There are lots of different cycling, a big run as well. There's lots in this, isn't there? I mean, you must take a long time to set it up. Tell us about the people who are getting involved as well.
Yeah, it's taken 7 years. It has taken a long time, and we had COVID step in at one point that stopped us back then. But we've got a really good team behind us. We've got the support of the City of Manchester, which is great. We've got support of all of the emergency services from the top. And it's just it's open to everybody, so there's lots of different people from all walks of life, serving, retired, that are signing up and taking part. So yeah.
And is it just people who've served, or is it other people as well, their families and things you mentioned?
No, so it's for immediate family members only as well, and those that have retired. So there's about 5.5 million people that could take part if they wanted to.
Wow. You wouldn't want all 5.5 million of them just to take part just this year, but as many as possible.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know, we could try and do it. It would be carnage, but...
yeah, exactly. You must be really looking forward to it, Debbie.
Yes, I am. And like
why is it so important to get involved?
Because you know our background. We just want to back anyone.
Just remind people at home who might not know.
Okay, so Forces Equine, we are there to look after those who serve, have served, and dependents of, and their families, which is dependents. But we're massive about mental health, and we know people struggle. And the one thing we've learnt with the horses is they give off pheromones, and bringing them together with something they enjoy, they can let off steam and just have a good time. But in the next breath, everything we do is to raise money to support this sort of thing, and so it's majorly important to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about your motivation for all of this as well, Mike, because you talked about seeing so many different people. What do you want to get out of the Gratitude Games?
Please tell me about you woke up one morning and Lorna went, what?
Tell us the story.
Well, I did wake up and I said to my wife, I've had this dream, and she's like, not again. I was like, no, a different type of dream. This is like... So it was... the main crux of the dream was to raise funds and awareness, and it's to not set up our own charity to carry out the work, because there's great charities that are already doing this. So it's to support those charities and support the work that they do, and put them on a pedestal as well. So it's about raising awareness, showing the public that we go to work, we turn up on everyone else's worst day, and we need to be in the best frame of mind when we do that, and quite often we're not. And it's really about highlighting the fact that more needs to be done to support the emergency services, so that they're in the right frame of mind for when they're needed.
And have you always been a sportsman yourself? What's your sport?
Golf now. I used to play cricket and stuff, but I can't run anymore, so yeah, golf.
Good stuff. And Debbie, how can people get involved? Where can they find information? How can they get it?
So if you want to find out about the entire games, you need to go to gratitudegames.uk. If you want to find out about the equestrian leg, you can also get that through gratitudegames.uk, but you can go to fegames.uk just for the equestrian bit. But the main event is gratitudegames.uk. If anybody wants to get involved, sponsor a class, get involved at all with however small, we will promote. And Mike's wife Lorna is amazing on social media, the same as my team are. We will promote you, we'll get you out there, and you know, anything anyone can do to get involved.
And can people just watching at home, can they make small donations? Is that
100%. If you go through to the Gratitude Games, you will see where you can make a donation if people don't want to go and support a class or get involved in that level. But
Sure.
yes, any donation would make a real difference.
You're about to say something, Mike.
Sorry,
no,
Mike.
no, that's fine. No, I was going to say we're obviously keen to still look for key sponsors for the event, because we want this to grow and become an annual event, and year on year just grow in size. So there's opportunity for sponsorship in that way. But any donation from anybody really through the site is just going to go to such a good cause.
Mike, Debbie, I hope it goes really, really well. Keep us updated, and when things are happening, maybe we can chat again. Maybe even from the Gratitude Games, get you on Zoom or something like that. Be lovely to chat to you again. Debbie Heath French, who's the founder of Forces Equine, who are heavily involved in Gratitude Games. Mike Downard is the founder, and he's a fireman himself as well. You can go to their website as well. And can I keep this? Is that all right? I mean, it's very cool. I think I might put up this lovely rosette on my fridge. Give it to Jack the cat. He'll love it. He'll play with the little aspects of it. There we are. Well, thank you both to Debbie and to Mike for that, and thanks to Chris as well, who has mentioned, who has sent me a message from Newbury to say, in defence of the younger deluded generation, the Belfast Agreement forgave the IRA, so why shouldn't they think Hamas are the same? A very, very interesting point. I think that's probably a longer conversation, Chris, but nonetheless a fair point on all of that. So lots more to come. We'll take some calls right up to 10 o'clock and have a quick chat with Petri Hoskin as well. He's here between 10 and 1. If you do want to get your call in, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Keith is on the line from Hampshire and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Keith, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hello, Peter.
Hi there.
I would like to say that this country's gone to hell, and
why do you think that, Keith?
Sorry?
Why do you think that?
What do I think that? Well, when people are petrol bombing ambulances...
Yeah, it's a pretty low point, isn't it?
Yes, and all these immigrants coming over on dinghies were, you know, a few hundred years ago, we could stop the Spanish Armada, but we can't stop dinghies coming across, right? And we're paying the French hundreds of millions of pounds, which is quite easy. All you got to do is, like, get a knife and pop them.
Which the French showed us they could do. They showed us they could do that a few months ago.
That was just... What do you mean, Peter?
No, I'm just saying that on camera, the French took a Stanley knife. The French forces took a Stanley knife and did that to a dinghy. People got off. They got off perfectly safely and went back to France. They showed us they could do that, but they don't seem to have done very much of it since, Keith.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, Peter, that was just for the cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Yeah. Why can't they do that for every dinghy?
Well, it's a very good point, Keith, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. Thank you for your points. Let's go to Grace in West London. Grace, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi. Well, first of all, just sympathies to Chris and to others who are being affected by...
I mean, gosh, what a call, Grace. Absolutely horrendous to hear what he had been through.
Yeah, and kudos to him for his bravery.
What's on your mind, Grace?
I was struck by was it Michael who said we all have the same God?
Yeah.
I'm thinking actually, I mean, a lot of the British public don't believe in God at all. Some people mistakenly think that somehow science is in conflict with God, for example, when I think the opposite is true, but that's a whole other debate. I think that some people are seeking God, but they've got a different understanding about God, and some people think that what God wants is for them to be hateful and vitriolic, unpleasant, towards those people who they think are wrong, and that's part of the problem. We think, as those of us who are Christians, think that we should aim to love our enemies, although that's blooming difficult, but that's what we should aim for. Whereas some people think that they're righteous if they demonstrate hatred towards, in this case, Jewish people, which is madness. But that's what they think. They think it makes them good and noble to be hateful. And so that's a completely different concept of God to the God that we believe in if we're Christians.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point, Grace. And I do think that this kind of righteous indignation, this thought that you're moral if you hate, does seem to be a very, very weird thing. But lots of people believe it. Lots of people think that by saying that Jewish people are bad, that they simply have the moral high ground in that.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a human instinct to want to feel like one is good and other people are bad, and you can ignore one's own flaws by focusing on the badness elsewhere in the world or in other people, and then kind of looking down on other people and condemning them. But it becomes even more problematic when you're not even disdaining other people for things they've actually done. You're disdaining people surely for their ethnicity or what other people from the same people group have done. It becomes completely irrational, and that's how most wars start. And it's horrifying to see. And I'm just so concerned for people like Chris right now. And I desperately hope that he and others can get some support.
Grace, listen, thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and I certainly. The sentiment is a very, very good one. Karen's on the line and wants to talk about Rachel Reeves. And just before I go to Karen, I just want to remind us what Rachel Reeves has been saying today. There's this big, big new plan to try to support people on the lower end of society, financially anyway, people who have less money with their energy bills. And Rachel Reeves has been talking about this today in the House of Commons. Let's just see what she has said.
I can confirm to the House that contingency planning is taking place for every eventuality, so that we can keep costs down for everyone and provide support for those who need it most. acting within our ironclad fiscal rules to keep inflation and interest rates as low as possible. Mr. Speaker, this is not a war that we started, nor is it a war that we joined, unlike the advice of the parties opposite. But it is a war that will have an impact on our country. The challenges may be significant, but I promise to do what is right and fair.
Rachel Reeves speaking in the House of Commons earlier on, the Chancellor laying out some of the ideas there for to help people with their energy bills. She was certainly talking about the cost of living going up because of the war. It's very interesting to see what Donald Trump has been saying about that. We'll come to that in a minute. Karen's in Bournemouth and has some thoughts on this. She's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Karen, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter.
Hi there.
I just think it's amazing that we're in this state of war and she's being completely partisan, reassuring people on benefits that they'll get more money. And it's just really horrific the way they're worried about the Muslim vote, so they're not going to make too much.
How did the two go together? How do people on benefits and the Muslim vote go together in your mind, Karen?
No, they don't necessarily.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that they're not going to make too much fuss about the anti-Semitism that's going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we did hear from. Yeah, Karen, we did hear from Shabana Mahmood today. Says it's unacceptable and they'll take action and all the rest of it. Do you think that's just hollow words?
They've been saying that forever.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't ring true anymore. We could be declaring in a state of emergency that they could actually stop the votes.
Well, certainly
we are at war.
Kent County Council have certainly done that. What do you think we should do about these energy bills, though, Karen? What's your view on that?
Well, that's the other thing, you see. Ed Miliband's so deep in hot to China, he's got all their solar panels that they had to sell off cheap because they made too many. And the thing is, it's not going to work. Because if we don't have oil and gas, we can't make the machinery, we can't make the boats, we can't make the ammunitions, we can't make, any of that kind of stuff. So that means we have to buy stuff off other people. And it doesn't work anyway, because like you say, we're in England. It doesn't exactly have the tropical sunshine and the gentle breezes that keep the thing going. It's completely erratic. And yeah, all right, we're coming up to summer, so life is going to be a bit easier. But come next winter...
Well, you're absolutely right, next winter, and that's of course when so much of the energy is actually used. Karen, thanks for your thoughts on all of that. Let's go to Sally in London, who has some thoughts. Sally, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Well, my name's Karen, like your previous caller.
Oh, sorry, I have Sally up on my screen. I do apologise, Karen.
No, that's fine.
Karen...
I just want to say thank you so much for your programme. If I hadn't had your programme, I would have gone insane. You've kept me buoyant and strong. Thank you. Every one of you on your programme.
It's really kind.
Channel.
That means a heck of a lot, Karen.
Mean it. No, I really mean it. I'm 65 years of age. I've got 4 sons. 2 of them are doctors. I've got a daughter-in-law who's a doctor. My husband's a doctor. Everything is going mad. The world is mad. I want to thank your programme. I also, there's loads of things that we want to say, but England is not a very safe place for Jewish people. Why didn't Sadiq Khan come down to Golders Green? Why have these marches gone on and on? I just want to say, though, heartfelt thanks to everybody on your team. You make me feel safer. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the channel. Thank you.
That means a huge amount to me, and I will make sure that all my colleagues know about what you've said, Karen.
100%, and you are fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please give me a ring on another occasion, Karen, as well. We're just coming up to the news, and I know Petri Hoskin is coming in a second, but on another occasion, Karen, we'll talk further, and I really appreciate that. Interesting one from Ernie, who says, Peter, my mate who I've known for years, who's mixed race, never had a racist bone in his body like me, has been battering my ears with things he's seen on the internet since the horrific 7th of October attacks. He's been saying the Jews did that, the Jews are doing this, it's all true, it's all over the internet. I finally snapped with him. I called him an anti-Semite. He was horrified that I called him that and walked away. Later he phoned me and said, I'm so sorry, that's really not me. I don't know what's happening to me. And I said to him, you don't need to carry the hate monster on your shoulders. It will ruin your life. Just be the happy-go-lucky person who loves everyone like you've always been, and don't get dragged into other people's sad, unhappy lives. Well, Ernie, that sounded like a conversation that needed to happen between you and your friend, and good for you for having it. I hope he changes and mends his ways. Really interesting programme this evening for lots of reasons. Thank you to Karen, thank you to Chris, and to all our other callers. Another fascinating programme coming up in a few minutes with Petri Hoskin, no doubt, between 10 and 1. Hello.
Hello there. Yes, I am going to be talking at midnight about the manosphere.
Oh, you've seen the documentary?
Yes, I have seen the documentary, and some people might be surprised at my take on it.
Okay.
But I'm going to save that until a little bit later on.
A lot of those people are quite anti-Semitic.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I think, you know, just when you hate, you hate.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really matter who you hate. For the manosphere, it is mostly women, and then it can be Jews, it can be immigrants, you know, whatever. Hatred is just feeds itself, tragically. So we're going to be talking about that at midnight. I've got a fascinating case study as well. I've got a young guy who's going to be talking about what he's experienced.
Oh, okay.
And the man who wrote the paper on manosphere and incel ideology. So I'm going to be talking about that as well. We're also going to be looking at why Starmer won't commit to when we're going to start spending more money on defence. I would have thought we've learnt enough in the last few weeks.
Small matter of the old £28 billion black hole as well.
Yeah, but you know, there's the black hole will be us if we don't get a defence system. I mean, and that's
it's funny, but it's true.
It's funny, but it's true. And then Loch Ness Monster.
Oh yes, it's been spotted.
It's been spotted.
Sort of.
It was so funny. My sister came round today, and she was there when I was talking to my producer Gabriella about the programme, and I said I wanted to do Loch Ness, and Claire turned to me and she said, well, you told me when you were a kid that you'd seen the Loch Ness Monster. And
had you?
I probably had told it. I said it was probably
You'd said
a lie.
it, but had you said it? Yes.
Probably a lie.
I spoke to someone who sells little ceramic figures of the Loch Ness Monster, and my question was, how do you know that that's what the Loch Ness Monster looks like? And he said, if you can bring me a photo of the Loch Ness Monster that shows that it's not like that, you get your money back.
Yeah.
Which I thought was absolutely
perfect.
superb. Yeah, that's
absolutely
brilliant.
Perfect.
I mean, do you think the Loch Ness Monster exists?
I'd like to think it exists.
It's a monster, though. Monsters are scary.
Yeah, but it hasn't really done any harm, has it?
No.
I mean, it's just, you know, I'd like to think that there's more out there.
Yes.
I'm just far too cynical. But romantically, I'd like to think that that does exist, yeah.
As I often say, just because you're cynical doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. Which is